Chapter 114. Jiwujiang. Everyone present had heard of this name during this period of time, especially Xue Chengxian, Li Che, and Su Zijuan. Their expressions immediately changed. After all, such a thing happened before and after the Medical Guild conference. Not only did the Wind Alliance lose face, but even the Starfall Pavilion lost face. Xue Chengxian looked coldly at the one-eyed snow wolf. The closer he got, the bigger the snow wolf seemed. His green eyes were almost bigger than their heads. He clenched the medicine knife in his hand. Even though he knew he was no match for him, he did not want to let go of this guy who made the Wind Alliance and the Xue family lose face. The snow wolf grinned, revealing his shiny white teeth. A mocking smile appeared on the face of such a huge beast demon. Under the starlight of the Starfall Sea, it was particularly terrifying. He casually glanced at Xue Chengxian, not caring about the medicine knife in his hand at all. The snow wolf's gaze quickly turned to Meng Qi's face. "Meng Qi," he said lazily, "you're good. I can't even hide from you." Although he did not directly return to his human form, this sentence could be considered as admitting that he was Jiwujiang. "I'm fine." Meng Qi reached out to Xing's shoulder and jumped down from her arms. "Be careful." Xing hurriedly helped her up. Meng Qi shook her head and gave her a comforting smile. She took a deep breath and looked at the snow wolf's face. She asked again, "Jiwujiang, what happened to your eyes?" The huge snow wolf grinned again. A cold light flashed across his snow-white teeth. He raised his front paw and patted the ground lightly. "Guess again." Meng Qi's eyes moved. The snow wolf was now very close. With the help of the starlight, she could see very clearly. The pure white fur on his body was really like white snow. It was clean, neat, and soft and covered his tall body. Its two ears were also covered with the same soft white fur. The snow wolf's right eye was like a deep lake, but its left eye was tightly shut. A narrow scar could be seen on its eyelid. Meng Qi pursed his lips and looked at Snow Wolf's left face. Under the white fur, she couldn't see if there were any wounds on his face, but she tilted her head slightly and looked at the snow wolves of the Starfall Sea, who were standing in the distance and not attacking them without Jiwujiang's order. Could it be that, as Xing had said, Jiwujiang was a heavenly demon noble who had been banished to the Starfall Sea? Meng Qi immediately denied this thought. It wasn't like that. Previously, when Jiwujiang was injured many times in the grand competition, she had probed his spiritual sea. The structure of this guy's spirit sea was completely different from Su Junmo and the others. He was not a Yao cultivator. "You." Meng Qi tilted her head slightly. "Are you attached to this snow wolf?" She hesitated and asked again, "Is your eye injured, or is this snow wolf's eye injured?" Meng Qi was still holding Xing's shoulder with one hand. It seemed that even standing was a little difficult for her. However, after pondering for a moment, she still took a step toward the huge snow wolf that Jiwujiang had transformed into. The snow wolf suddenly howled into the sky. In the howl, his body shook, and the black-robed man was already standing next to the snow wolf's huge body. No one saw how he did it. Meng Qi's eyes flashed slightly and fell on the fur on the side of the snow wolf's abdomen. There was clearly a flash of spiritual energy there. Meng Qi's heart stirred slightly. "Can you use an array to attach to this snow wolf and control his movements?" Jiwujiang stood up and smiled lazily. "Now you want to worship me as your master?" Meng Qi curled her lips. She was too lazy to answer his question. Even if she had not found Yin Qingyan, it was impossible for her to become Jiwujiang's disciple. Not to mention now. Meng Qi's gaze fell on the left side of the black-robed man's face. The black-robed man originally had a wound on his forehead that had not healed. Now the wound looked even more ferocious. It was originally only 3 narrow slits, but now it looked like it had been forcefully torn open. The black gas inside surged and looked exceptionally terrifying. Although Jiwujiang's left eye was open, it was dim and lifeless. His face was full of indifference, but it could not hide the fact that his left eye was indeed blind. Countless thoughts flashed through Meng Qi's mind. Su Junmo, who was standing a few steps in front of her, suddenly said, You have already advanced to the insightful emptiness stage. Little White Fox has some foresight." Jiwujiang raised his eyebrows and glanced lazily at Su Junmo. Although the Heavenly Network has learned a lot, Their foresight is still passable. Su Junmo. Little Red Fox 2. Which Black Tortoise clan member are you learning water-type spells from? If your Red Fox clan really wants to become a disciple of another sky demon, why can't you learn from the Phoenix, letting you become a disciple of the Black Tortoise? Who came up with this genius idea? Fire and water are born incompatible, but that Black Tortoise actually dares to take you in as a disciple. TSK. Is this because the skilled are bold, or because the ignorant are fearless? How dare they let you enter the fallen star sea after teaching you to be such a dabbler? Yes, the disciple resembles the master, but she is probably too stupid to realize it. Xing. Meng Qi. So this was how she recognized Ji Wujiang. That snow wolf's tone was too familiar, and she was asking for a beating. She had spent a lot of time with Ji Wujiang in the enchantment barrier of the competition. Furthermore, she had a good memory. His tone, his arrogant manner of always looking down on others. She really could not forget it even if she wanted to. Hey! Xing's face flushed red, and she stomped her feet heavily. It's my fault that I can't learn well. You are not allowed to talk about my father and master like that. They are very, very good people. Ji Wujiang snorted coldly. The Black Tortoise clan is famous for cherishing their lives. Their greatest ability is to see who has the longest life, to be able to come out and take in a disciple, and even a little red fox. Let me see what you have that can move those old Black Tortoises who can squat down and not move for 1,000 years. Xing. Ah. Before any of them could react, the black-robed man's figure suddenly flashed to Xing's side like a ghost. Meng Qi was standing beside Xing, one of her hands even resting on his shoulder. Her reaction was extremely fast. When Ji Wujiang's gaze turned to Xing's face, she had already dug out several spirit stones with her left hand. When she saw the black-robed man's sleeves move, she immediately bent over and drew a formation on the ground with her medicine knife. Meng Qi raised her hand, and the spirit stones in her palm flew into the formation. Ji Wujiang's figure flashed, and when he appeared in front of Xing, he happened to step into the formation drawn by Meng Qi. With a flash of light, Meng Qi had already pulled Xing to the side. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. Ji Wujiang's figure swayed, and Meng Qi bent over to draw the formation. After the formation was activated, she pulled Xing and retreated quickly. As if the three of them had rehearsed their cooperation, it was seamless. Oh, Ji Wujiang snorted coldly. With his current ability, that formation naturally could not trap him. However, it was only for a moment, and Meng Qi had already pulled Xing back a few steps. He did not hit the target this time, and he was too lazy to argue with a little girl. Meng Qi. Ji Wujiang looked back at her sinisterly. You've improved, heh? You even dare to scheme against me. Although he said that, the smile in his eyes was even wider than before. From the beginning to the end, Meng Qi's personality and talent in formations were simply too much to his liking. Give me the item. Meng Qi stretched out her hand toward him, and her gaze turned to Su Zijuan. The disciples of the Falling Star Pavilion are here. Since you've advanced to the insightful Void Realm, shouldn't you return the item to them? Return it to them, and then let them continue to foolishly waste it. Ji Wujiang sneered. Using stardust to help cultivation. The little geniuses of the Falling Star Pavilion do not lose to this little fox's father and master at all. Meng Qi. Su Zijuan. I was just about to ask. Ji Wujiang turned to look at Su Zijuan. Have you been to Star Lake? Su Zijuan. He was the second most powerful person among the younger generation of the Falling Star Pavilion. His talent was second only to Pei Mufeng. Now that he was at the peak of the nascent soul realm, it was natural that he had been to the Star Lake. Ji Wujiang looked at him with a half-smile. How was it? Did soaking in the Star Lake allow your strength to soar by leaps and bounds, allowing you to be reborn? Su Zijuan. Oh, I forgot. Ji Wujiang had a look of realization. There's still a lot of Cold Spring Spirit Dew in the Star Lake. Cold Spring Spirit Dew. Shui Chengxian and Li Che said in unison. Soaking in it should at least clear your head a little. Why? Ji Wujiang ignored the two of them and looked at Su Zijuan with a half-smile. Don't tell me that you didn't gain anything the last time, and are planning to go there again? What is this? You're stupid but you don't know it. You're trying to be stupid again. Let me guess. Ji Wujiang glanced at Su Zijuan and understood. Yes, the ancestors of the Falling Star Pavilion discovered by chance that the Star Lake was different from other lakes. The spirit chi was denser, and it was different from the spirit chi of ordinary grotto heavens. Therefore they worshipped it as a sacred ground. It was passed down from generation to generation. Every generation is stupid. Yes. He glanced at Meng Qi and changed his words. Yes, they're all sword cultivators. They don't know about arrays or medicine. They're also afraid that other people will know about it and take the benefits away from them. Therefore, they kept it a secret and even used it as a reward for the best disciples in the sect. TSK. Su Zijuan. These disciples who had the chance to enter the Star Lake naturally didn't gain anything. They only improved their cultivation by a little bit. Ji Wujiang chuckled and said lazily. However, this was passed down by the ancestors. It's very difficult to get a chance to enter. They only improved their cultivation by 2 or 3 days, but they didn't gain anything else. How could they tell others about this? Su Zijuan. Therefore, whenever someone from the same sect asked, "Is the Star Lake good?" they would definitely smile mysteriously and pretend to be mysterious. They would act as if they had gained something great. Generation after generation was stupid. Cough cough. Ji Wujiang glanced at Meng Qi again and changed his words. As the rumor spread, the Star Lake is full of mystery. No one dares to say that the Star Lake is bad, but no one can gain anything from the Star Lake. He continued. If you don't gain anything from going there once, you can only get a pretentious smile when you ask others. You must be stupid. Since you didn't succeed the first time, you should try your best to go again. Other disciples who haven't been there saw it. Wow. Our fellow disciples who have been there before are so eager to go again. No way. We want to go too. You. Su Zijuan's face turned red. He couldn't lie. Although the sect had been passed down for thousands of years, it was said that the Star Lake could help cultivators break through. The disciples of the Falling Star Pavilion also fought to get 3 places to go to the Star Lake every year. They were afraid of being left behind. The sect also had a rule that if someone entered the Star Lake this year, they couldn't enter the Star Lake for 5 years. Su Zijuan didn't know what the others were like. He only knew that after he entered the Star Lake with anticipation and excitement, he was soon at a loss. Yes, the spirit chi in the Star Lake was richer, but it couldn't be compared to some of the blessed grotto heavens and the fallen star sea. Not to mention helping him break through, he felt that his cultivation speed only increased a little after soaking in the Star Lake for an entire day. It probably meant that he could save 2 or 3 days from advancing to the next minor realm that originally took a year. This was completely different from what he expected. It had been passed down from generation to generation in the sect. Su Zijuan couldn't figure it out, but he didn't dare to ask his fellow disciples. The Star Lake became the most mysterious existence in the Falling Star Pavilion. All the disciples still worked hard to get the 3 places to enter the Star Lake every year. Even the elders were no exception. But all the disciples kept quiet about the benefits that the Star Lake brought to them. None of them would take the initiative to talk about the benefits that the Star Lake brought to them. Su Zijuan was at a loss for a while. He could only guess that he wasn't talented enough, or his cultivation level wasn't high enough. That was why he entered the Star Lake and returned empty-handed. He had entered the Star Lake 3 years ago. According to the sect's rules, he couldn't enter again for 2 years. So now he was rubbing his hands and preparing to enter the Star Lake again 2 years later. He thought that when his cultivation level reached a higher level, he wouldn't return empty-handed like last time. Su Zijuan stared at Ji Wujiang hatefully. It was too uncomfortable to talk to this person. Meng Qi had been with him for so long in the barrier of the grand competition. In the end, he was still willing to save him. He was really too kind. So the Star Lake became the #1 holy land in the Falling Star Pavilion just like that. TSK. Ji Wujiang didn't finish speaking. This is the #1 sword cultivation sect in the Eastern Territory. It's really similar to the 4 great families of the Wind Alliance. Ji Wujiang. Xue Chengxian was burning with anger. What do you mean? What do I mean? As the eldest son of the Wind Alliance's Xue family, as the leader of the younger generation of medical cultivators, you didn't dare to help your 2 sisters when they were poisoned and injured. Shouldn't you be very clear about this? Ji Wujiang said as he winked at Meng Qi. Right? Meng Qi. Meng Qi was speechless. You. Xue Chengshuan's face was livid. He clenched the medicine knife in his hand and said coldly, Do it. He was the eldest son of the Xue family after all. From the moment he was born, he was destined to live and fight to protect the family's glory. What? Ji Wujiang slowly pulled out a pitch-black narrow knife. You want to fight me? He flicked his finger, and the amethyst 8 trigrams plate appeared in his mind. Ji Wujiang tilted his head slightly. Meng Qi, this guy's family must be planning to let him marry you. Otherwise, they wouldn't be willing to let their eldest son personally venture into a place like the Falling Star Sea. TSK. I'll solve this problem for you. How about it? Xue Chengshuan's face suddenly flushed red, and the veins on his neck were clearly visible. His family did have this intention, but Xue Chengxian glanced at Meng Qi, who was standing there coldly. The girl's face was still as calm as when they first met, as if she didn't hear Ji Wujiang's words. Xue Chengshuan's heart was filled with mixed feelings for a moment. He gritted his teeth and clenched the medicine knife in his hand. Do it. He had been the eldest son of the Xue family for more than 20 years, and he was responsible for the family's prosperity. He rarely acted so impulsively. However, at this moment, he was really angered by this black-robed man in front of him who really deserved a beating. Xue Chengxian only wanted to fight. Fellow Taoist Xue. Meng Qi finally spoke. She frowned slightly. Let's go find Sister Xue first. The grudge between you and Ji Wujiang can be settled after we get out of the Falling Star Sea, okay? Ji Wujiang. Meng Qi looked at Ji Wujiang again. It belongs to the Falling Star Pavilion. Others can use it however they want. They've guarded it for thousands of years, so it's what they deserve. Everything in the 3 realms belongs to the capable. Ji Wujiang said casually. Why don't we fight? Whoever wins gets the stardust. Let's fight. Su Zijuan was also angered. He waved his hand, and his natal sword floated in the air. Even though he knew that his opponent was an insightful emptiness realm expert, he was not afraid to fight for his sect. If you lose, not only do you have to return my sect's treasure, but you also have to apologize to my sect. Let's talk about it after you win. Ji Wujiang flicked his finger, and the amethyst 8 trigrams disc flashed and swayed beside him. It seemed to be following its master, and mocking Su Zijuan for overestimating himself. I'll do it too. Si Kongxing suddenly stepped forward. I won't allow anyone to trample on the name of my master and father. Meng Qi was speechless. Ji Wujiang. She suddenly reached out, and took out the promissory note that Ji Wujiang gave her from her storage bag. Does this promissory note still count? Ji Wujiang glanced at her from the corner of his eyes. I'm not someone who reneges on debts. Okay. Meng Qi nodded. You won't return the stardust, but can you return the money to me now? Ji Wujiang was speechless. He had written a promissory note for a total of 1,000 Xian spirit stones. After he left the apricot forest, he went to the Star Lake. He didn't have time to look for spirit stones. He only had a few hundred 9th grade spirit stones on him now. He couldn't even take out one, let alone 1,000 Xian spirit stones. Bikuj novel reading network. It was rare for him to be speechless, so he rummaged through his storage bag. He had some gains after falling into the Starfall Sea, but they were of no use to Meng Qi. If you don't have spirit stones to return then. Meng Qi glanced at him and turned to ask Su Zhenmo, how many spirit stones does it cost to hire an insightful emptiness realm expert in the 3,000 worlds? Su Zhenmo replied. 10 Xian spirit stones, I think. After reaching the insightful emptiness realm, almost no one would hire a cultivator. 109th grade spirit stones could hire a spirit severing stage cultivator for several days. They could even ask them to complete a task that wasn't particularly difficult. If that was the case, 10 spirit stones should be enough to hire a insightful emptiness realm cultivator for a day. Okay. Mengqi nodded and waved the promissory note in her hand. Ji Wujiang, it's only right to repay debts. You also said that you won't go back on your word. Then I'll hire you for 10 spirit stones a day. Please help us find big sister Shui. Mengqi paused. She looked into Ji Wujiang's eyes and added, now immediately, we'll set off immediately. Chapter 115. Mengqi looked at Su Zijuan and Shui Chengxian. Fellow Taoist Shui, fellow Taoist Su, it's more important to find Sister Shui now. After she finished speaking, she reached out and pulled Xingxing Xingxing. When we get out, let's work together to beat him up. Okay. Xingxing nodded heavily. Su Zijuan's long sword remained motionless. After a while he slowly nodded. The long sword hummed softly, and the tip of the sword glinted coldly. Ji Wujiang was too infuriating. If he was alone, he would still fight for his sect even if he knew that he was no match for Shui Chengxian. Shui Chengxian put down his medicine knife, and his expression slowly calmed down. Mengqi treated them differently. Even if he was close to his sister, he was still polite to him, but always kept a distance. He turned to look at Mengqi. The green-robed girl's expression was indifferent. The rich starlight in the starfall sea shone on her beautiful facial features and small cheeks, making her skin look even fairer and more delicate. She stood side by side with Xingxing, wearing a green robe and a red dress. One was as gorgeous as a red plum blossom, while the other was like an orchid in an empty valley. In terms of appearance, he really couldn't tell who was prettier. Shui Chengxian looked at Mengqi's cold gaze, and his heart suddenly moved. When they first met in Burnt City, the girl was actually not as distant and cold as she was now. The two of them talked and chatted quite harmoniously. Especially when they talked about Pei Mufeng from the Starfall Pavilion, he even faintly felt a sense of regret that they didn't meet earlier. Ziyashitting. Therefore at that time he generously gave away the 9 Yang pills formula, and the silver moon sword diagram. However, at that time, Shui Chengxian knew that it was rare for him to be friends with Mengqi. After all, as the eldest son of the Shui family of the Wind Alliance, and as the successor that his father and elders had high hopes for, he had to shoulder too many things. Later, he naturally distanced himself from Mengqi. Who would have thought that after such a huge detour, the incident in Descending Star City would turn out like this? Shui Chengxian recalled what Ji Wujiang had said earlier. Although his father didn't say it directly, as the eldest son of the Shui family, he understood what it meant for the Shui family and the Wind Alliance to pass the barrier, enter the hidden stage, and obtain Lin Yan's approval. Even if his family didn't have such thoughts, the other 3 of the 4 great families were probably ready to make a move. There were also the other 10 great sects who knew the secret of the apricot forest. Shui Chengxian narrowed his eyes slightly. After Mengqi left the grand competitions barrier, he somehow fell into the Starfall Sea. If she were still in the Trichiliocosm, it would not be an exaggeration to say that wherever she went, the most outstanding young disciples of the top 10 medical cultivation sects would follow behind her and compete to please her. Thinking of this, Shui Chengxian suddenly felt like laughing. Ji Wujiang's words were harsh and sharp, but his eyes were very sharp. He didn't know where he came from, but he seemed to be quite hostile to all medical cultivation sections. However, his words hit the nail on the head. Let's go. Mengqi directly deducted 10 spirit stones from Ji Wujiang's IOU. Ji Wujiang, you walk in front. Ji Wujiang sneered and returned to the Snow Wolf's side. After he left, the Snow Wolf lay on the ground and didn't move at all. It was unknown whether it was dead or unconscious. Ji Wujiang reached out and pressed on the Snow Wolf's abdomen. The Snow Wolf's eyes suddenly opened. Previously it could only open one eye. Now both eyes opened at the same time, like 2 small green lamps. However, its eyes were cloudy, and it still didn't seem to have its own consciousness. The Snow Wolf opened its mouth and let out a few long and short howls. The snow wolves that were originally surrounding Mengqi and the others all turned their heads, including the other 6 taller wolves standing on the mountain peak. They also turned their heads and rushed forward. Su Junmo's expression changed slightly. His lips moved as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he didn't say anything. The snow wolves were heavenly demon nobles that were exiled to the Starfall Sea by the demon realm. Even if they couldn't take human form, even if their cultivation stagnated, even if they had been here for a long time and their consciousness was slowly eroded by the miasma and poison in the Starfall Sea, gradually turning into beasts, they were also once heavenly demon nobles, experts that were on par with the white fox and red fox. Now they were being ordered around by Ji Wujiang like spirit beasts. What was this guy's background? Su Junmo quickly glanced at Ji Wujiang. The black-robed man was tall, and the black gauze bamboo hat that he had been wearing had long been thrown away, revealing half of his handsome and flawless face. The other half of his face was strange, mysterious, and somewhat terrifying. Ji Wujiang naturally walked to Meng Qi's side. He glanced at Si Gongxing and snorted softly. "Let's go." With this delay, half an hour passed. Meng Qi and the others walked quickly towards the place where the signal fireworks lit up. Su Zijuan and Qin Xiuma's long swords were still hanging in the air, one on the left and one on the right. Su Junmo took a few steps back and walked side by side with Li Che and Xue Qingxian. Si Gongxing snorted. Her eyes moved, and the index and middle fingers of her right hand came together. Layers of black water rose in response, and then suddenly drilled into the ground. She glared at Ji Wujiang. Once they reached the insightful void stage, they could be considered a powerhouse in any of the top 10 sects in the Four Realms. If a spirit-severing stage cultivator really advanced to the insightful void stage, then his injuries should have healed. Meng Qi wasn't particularly familiar with the strength of an insightful void stage Xiuzha. However, she was familiar with medical skills. Such a big advancement was equivalent to being reborn. There was no reason for the old injuries to remain. If Ji Wujiang couldn't even resolve the effects of these old injuries, it was impossible for him to advance. Therefore, there was another possibility. Ji Wujiang didn't advance to the insightful void stage. Instead, he was an insightful void stage cultivator. It was just that he was injured previously or for some other reason, so his realm was suppressed to the spirit-severing stage. Meng Qi narrowed her eyes slightly. Her gaze swept past the wounds on Ji Wujiang's face. The 3 wounds were originally very deep. They used to be very narrow. Now there seemed to be black gas flowing inside them. They looked exceptionally terrifying. Meng Qi's mind flashed through the medical books she had read before. Sealing wounds, or, her gaze swept past the wounds on Ji Wujiang's cheeks. Previously, she felt that it was very likely that he was injured by the weapons of demonic cultivators, which was why there was demonic energy left. Meng Qi's heart suddenly jolted. Could these wounds be caused by Ji Wujiang himself? It was him. "Everyone be careful." Su Zijuan suddenly stopped and said in a deep voice. Everyone in the team stopped in their tracks. Even Ji Wujiang stood beside Meng Qi. Although there was a pack of snow wolves scouting ahead, Su Zijuan and Qin Xiuma's long swords were always floating in the air beside everyone. They were still guarding everyone like before. Ferocious beasts are approaching. Su Zijuan lowered his voice and made a gesture to keep quiet. Qin Xiuma waved his hand. Su Junmo and Si Gongxing stood on the left and right respectively. Spiritual qi flashed on their fingers, and they were ready to fight. Meng Qi took a deep breath and flicked her fingers lightly. The coldness in her 5-spirit cauldron was still dense. Along the way, the spiritual qi kept turning into snowflakes and drifting down. The layer of ice in her entire spirit sea was getting thicker and thicker. Just now, when Ji Wujiang appeared, she suddenly froze and couldn't move. There was no reaction. Her entire spirit sea was frozen. Although it was fine now, half of the spiritual qi in her spirit sea still seemed to be frozen. Meng Qi took out a medicine knife from her storage bag and held a handful of spirit stones in her other hand as usual. Ji Wujiang glanced at her. "Do you know how I controlled the snow wolves just now?" "Formation?" Meng Qi asked. "Yes." Ji Wujiang raised the corner of his lips. "Do you want to learn?" Meng Qi's heart skipped a beat. She nodded honestly. Yes. This formation might be nothing to others, but it was extremely useful to her, especially when her cultivation level was only at the Golden Core realm. A haze seemed to pass over the Starfall Sea. On the other side of the sky observation mirror, in the courtyard where Meng Qi was cultivating before, The white-robed Yun Qingyan stood under the phoenix tree that no longer had a single fruit. He opened his eyes. In front of him, in the lotus pond with purple lotus, a gust of wind suddenly blew over the water surface, making waves. The water surface suddenly reflected the situation in the Starfall Sea. The girl in green stood beside the black-robed man. The two of them stood side by side. Ji Wujiang was strange and mysterious, while Meng Qi looked indifferent. Her elegant little face looked serious and focused. Yun Qingyan stared at them for a while. Then his gaze fell on the medicine knife in Meng Qi's hand. A touch of warmth flashed through his eyes. When he looked at Ji Wujiang again, there was only coldness in his eyes. Meng Qi paused and said, "It's impossible for me to become your disciple. But if you're willing to accept spirit stones and teach me, I'll learn." Chapter 116. Ji Wujiang sneered, his face full of disdain. "I'll teach you after receiving spirit stones? Meng Qi, what do you take me for?" "Then forget it." Meng Qi narrowed his eyes and focused on the front. At this time, the long night was coming to an end, and the sky in the distance of the Starfall Sea was turning white. Little bits of the morning glow slowly dyed the eastern sky red. The stars in the sky were still hanging high, but they were less bright than the night sky. Meng Qi's entire team stopped in their tracks. The pack of wolves at the front of the pack howled. The low growls of wild beasts echoed under the silent night sky. Xing approached Meng Qi and formed a spell with his right hand. Black water drilled out of the ground and rose from the ground, forming a wall of water about the height of everyone's waist, enclosing all of them inside. Chu Tianfeng's fingers clasped lightly, and a red lotus suddenly bloomed beside him. Each petal was like a burning flame, looking exceptionally dazzling. Su Zijuan and Qin Xiuma's long swords pointed forward side by side. There, the snow wolves were still howling and whimpering. Even they seemed to have sensed danger. Su Junmo raised his hand. A blue light flew out of his palm, and finally disappeared into the ground. They had worked together many times. When they sensed danger, everyone took their positions without needing to be commanded and quickly prepared for battle. Ji Wujiang looked around and watched everyone's movements. He raised his eyebrows. Why didn't they immediately mock him? Ji Wujiang pressed his hand against his chest and slowly pulled out a pitch-black narrow saber. Meng Qi was standing right next to him, and could see it clearly. The other's narrow saber was clearly not a life-bond weapon or talisman. It was pulled out from his chest. Her heart moved slightly. She suddenly remembered that she had heard Su Junmo mention before that there was a very special clan among the Sky Yao. Their Xiuzha used their bodies as forging cauldrons and their bones and blood as materials. The weapons they forged were even stronger than life-bond weapons. Wuxiaks. That lineage of sky demons were famous experts among the sky demons. However, Su Junmo did not mention which heavenly demon race it was. Could it be that Ji Wujiang was actually a Yao cultivator? Meng Qi frowned slightly. Ji Wujiang also summoned the amethyst 8 trigrams disc. It seemed to recognize Meng Qi. As soon as it appeared, it immediately ran towards her, rubbed against her shoulder, and then turned around beside her. He seemed to be in a good mood. Ji Wujiang reached out and grabbed the amethyst 8 trigrams plate, throwing it to his other side. "Prepare for battle," he snorted and said coldly. The amethyst 8 trigrams plate shook its small body aggrievedly, as if it was still unwilling to give up, and wanted to rub against Meng Qi. However, due to Ji Wujiang's deterrence, it could only graze his shoulder and did not dare to fly over again. Meng Qi couldn't help but smile. It was true that a natal magic treasure could communicate with its owner's mind and cultivate a wisp of spiritual consciousness. However, she had never seen a natal magic treasure with spiritual consciousness like the amethyst 8 trigrams plate. "Your natal cauldron," Ji Wujiang reminded Meng Qi. Meng Qi flicked her finger, and the 5-spirit cauldron flew out of her spiritual sea and floated beside her. After leaving the spiritual sea, the 5-spirit cauldron seemed to have lost its coldness. It looked a little simple, and could not even compare to Li Che's natal cauldron. It looked like a natal cauldron that had just completed the foundation establishment, and was only at the first realm. Ji Wujiang glanced at the word qi on it, and was not surprised at all. His gaze turned to the belly of the cauldron. The fire array was carved on the belly of the cauldron by Meng Qi using her spiritual consciousness. After it was carved, it was hidden in the belly of the cauldron. In fact, no one could see that there was a formation carved on it. However, Ji Wujiang seemed to be able to see through everything. This small cauldron has many magical uses. He did not speak, but his voice clearly reached Meng Qi's ears. You should have felt it just now. The five-spirit cauldron absorbed the snowtooth bee's coldness and used it to refine the spiritual energy in your spiritual sea. Meng Qi was stunned. In fact, she had already vaguely guessed that the coldness that almost froze her spiritual sea and turned her spiritual energy into ice came from the snowtooth bees. After hearing Ji Wujiang's words, she was even more certain. The five-spirit cauldron is called the five-spirit cauldron because it can absorb everything and turn it into the five-spirit primordial qi. Ji Wujiang transmitted his voice to her again. I don't know much, but is there any record on the jade slip on how to use it? Meng Qi shook her head gently. Her heart skipped a beat. Senior Lin Yan's natal magic treasure was also a pill cauldron. The five-spirit cauldron came from the barrier of the competition, and Senior Lin Yan's remnant was left there. Could it be? Prepare for battle first. Ji Wujiang transmitted his voice to her again. In the future, use it as much as you can in every battle. 10,000 years have passed, and those who still recognize this small cauldron are already very rare. Moreover, it's gray now and can't even compare to an ordinary natal pill cauldron. You don't have to worry about being recognized for the time being. When it becomes stronger, you should also be strong enough so you don't have to worry. Meng Qi nodded gently. Ji Wujiang suddenly cursed in a low voice. He threw a jade slip to Meng Qi and continued to transmit his voice. Take it. It has the secret method of transmitting sound. Otherwise, it'll make me look stupid. Meng Qi. She threw the jade slip into her storage bag. This thing was not too rare. She gestured with her index finger at Ji Wujiang, meaning to deduct one Xian spirit stone from his debt. Ji Wujiang snorted softly and did not speak for the time being. He turned his head to look ahead. There, the howls of the snow wolves became more and more intense. However, Meng Qi and the others could still only see the snow wolves pouncing on the open ground. They did not know what they were fighting with. Snakes. Si Gongxing suddenly raised her voice and said, It's snakes. So many snakes. At the end of her sentence, her voice became a little shrill. At least 10,000 snakes. Ugh. Meng Qi and Ji Wujiang looked at each other. Both of them thought of the scene when they joined forces to deal with the soaring snake sect in the grand competition. As Si Gongxing's voice fell, a rustling sound suddenly sounded. It sounded like the wind blowing through a large number of bamboo leaves in a dense bamboo forest. It also sounded like countless fine grains of sand rubbing against each other and rolling around. Immediately after, a strong stench floated in the air. There was a bit of bitterness in the stench. In addition, there was also a strong murderous intent. Meng Qi's heart suddenly beat faster. It's a poisonous snake. As she spoke, she took out a porcelain bottle from her storage bag. Her figure was as fast as lightning as she circled around everyone. In just a moment, everyone had 3 breeze pills in their hands. These were the pills that Meng Qi refined after coming out of the grand competition's grand competition. They were level 4 pills, and each pill contained a breeze technique. The others were fine, but when Xue Chengxian received the pills, his expression suddenly changed slightly. He turned his head and quickly glanced at Meng Qi. The green-robed girl was holding a medicine knife horizontally, and her natal pill cauldron swayed gently beside her. It's her. Xue Chengshuan's heart was filled with mixed feelings. Meng Qi was actually the cultivator from the Outland who used a bottle of level 2 North Underworld pills to make all the major medical sects in the 4 realms look for her. In other words, she at least knew who that cultivator was. It was even very likely that she was his successor. It's actually Meng Qi again. Xue Chengxian didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This was a cultivator who was still in the golden core stage. In the grand competition's grand competition, she brazenly broke through the 4 realms' 12 strongest medical sects and spent thousands of years trying to find the hidden barrier. Then even their Xue family was looking for her. She was the mysterious medical cultivator from the Outland who was extremely talented in alchemy. No wonder third sister would leave the Xue family for Meng Qi. He knew it. Third sister wouldn't be so decisive if she only focused on Xinglin. It's actually Meng Qi again. On the other side, Li Che was also stunned. Although Surging Waves College didn't buy the North Underworld pills refined by Meng Qi, Surging Waves College's alchemy method was very outstanding. He held the breeze pill for only a moment, and soon discovered its secret. Although he knew that there would be a big battle, Li Che was still stunned for a moment. He subconsciously turned his head to look at Xue Qingxian. He looked at the other party's dumbfounded expression, and the way he looked at Meng Qi. Li Che clenched the breeze pill in his hand. Faintly, he felt that it wasn't strange that Meng Qi could refine such a pill. After all, the other party. How was the other party? Li Che thought of this and was stunned again. He felt that he should know more, but he always felt that there was a large gap in his memory, as if he had forgotten some key content. Even his previous thoughts had become a little strange. Why did he think that Meng Qi should be able to refine such a pill? Be careful, Qin Xioma said in a low voice. It's coming. With a flip of his hand, his natal sword in the air suddenly turned into thousands of sword shadows. The sky was filled with his dense sword shadows. The sword hung down and didn't fall. The tip of the sword shone coldly and pointed to the ground. The rustling sound became louder and louder. The howls of the snow wolves also became louder and louder. 1, 2, 3. In front of them, those snow wolves fell down one by one. The rustling sound didn't stop. Meng Qi and the others saw a black shadow covering the snow wolves on the ground like a huge blanket. In the blink of an eye, those snow wolves that were taller than 3 or 4 people were completely wiped out, as if they had never existed in the Starfall Sea. It seemed that the snow wolves would be completely wiped out in the time it took for 2 incense sticks to burn at most. The corners of Ji Wujiang's lips suddenly curled up, and his eyes were astonishingly bright. Do you know why the Starfall Sea is a dangerous place where the cultivators of the 3 realms who have reached the spirit-severing stage and above, although they are afraid, they still come here to gain experience? Meng Qi shook her head. Ji Wujiang glanced at her and suddenly said in a loud voice, the spiritual energy of the ferocious beasts that are hunted in the Starfall Sea is the best treasure to refine a natal magic treasure or weapon. No matter what Qin Xioma and the others were doing, they all looked at Ji Wujiang when they heard this. Ji Wujiang quickly said, you just need to attach a formation to your natal magic treasure or weapon. I can help you, but... He paused and glanced at Meng Qi again. But you need to pay spirit stones. F***ck. Qin Xioma and the others cursed in their hearts at the same time. These words sounded so familiar, but the temptation was indeed very great. But could they trust Ji Wujiang? This guy's way of doing things was strange. No one knew what he was thinking. Everyone had just been ridiculed by his harsh words and felt uncomfortable all over. Could they trust him now? Ji Wujiang shrugged. Meng Qi knows formations. I can draw it for her natal magic cauldron first. You should trust her, right? After he finished speaking, he raised the pitch-black narrow knife and quickly drew on the side of Meng Qi's 5-spirit cauldron. Ji Wujiang's movements were very fast. In a breath's time, a complete and exquisite formation was completed. Spirit stones. He raised his chin at Meng Qi and added, 7 Xian spirit stones. At this time, even Xue Qingxian and the others couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. 7 Xian spirit stones were needed for a person's formation. These were Xian spirit stones. Even a disciple like Xue Chengxian from the Wind Alliance's Xue family wouldn't carry Xian spirit stones with him. In the Trichiliocosm, 2 to 300 ninth-grade spirit stones were enough for the vast majority of cultivators to spend. Xian spirit stones were usually used in auctions at the level of sky beyond heaven and earth or heaven. Meng Qi waved his hand, and 7 Xian spirit stones flew out steadily and embedded themselves in the 5-spirit cauldron. With a bang, the 5-spirit cauldron began to spin. The surrounding spiritual energy flickered and looked dazzling. Ugh! Meng Qi suddenly frowned and groaned. Meng Qi. Si Gongxing hurriedly reached out to support her. Are you okay? I'm fine. Meng Qi waved her hand. She took a deep breath and said, this formation can indeed help us refine our natal talismans or weapons. She looked at Chu Tianfeng and said quickly, If we had this formation just now, those snow-tooth bees could have raised your red lotus of hellfire by 1/10 of its realm. Chu Tianfeng sucked in a breath of cold air. Not only him, but even Su Junmo and the others' hearts were beating wildly. At their level, every time a natal magic treasure or weapon was upgraded, not only would it require a lot of heavenly materials and earthly treasures to refine, it would also require the owner to use the natal magic treasure for a long period of time to accumulate experience before it could be upgraded. Although the battle against the snow-tooth bees was intense, their natal talismans or swords only made a slight advancement. Not to mention 1/10 of their realms, it didn't even reach 1/100th of their realms. In an instant, everyone's eyes became scorching hot. Ji Wujiang chuckled. Set up the formation. 100 Xian spirit stones per person. F***CK. Everyone cursed in their hearts again. Spirit stones were not a problem. These were all disciples from large sections. But they were unwilling to give it to this guy. At this moment, Mengqi glanced at Ji Wujiang. A trace of hesitation flashed across her face, but she still said, "This formation. I know how to do it too." Chapter 117. Ji Wujiang laughed angrily. "Mengqi, are you trying to steal my business?" He glanced at Mengqi from the corner of his eyes, feeling both surprised and happy. What was this girl trying to do? He knew that there was a formation genius by his side, so he drew very quickly just now. Ordinary people might not even be able to see what he did, let alone learn it. What? Ji Wujiang glanced sideways. Mengqi still learned it? He didn't know what to say for a moment. Mengqi's talent in formations was this amazing? He really gave him a new surprise every time. Ji Wujiang's left hand, which was hanging by his side, curled slightly. All sorts of feelings welled up in his heart, and it was hard to scratch. If Mengqi was really a genius, then no matter how ruthless he was, he would force her to acknowledge him as her master. This girl would definitely be able to inherit his legacy, and even bring it to greater heights. Then I want Mengqi to help me. Xing jumped to Mengqi's side without hesitation. She didn't care that she was actually a Yao cultivator, and didn't have a natal magic treasure. In any case, there was nothing wrong with supporting a good friend. Mengqi. Chu Tianfeng said firmly, 100 Xian spirit stones, right? No. He quickly changed the topic and said, you still need 7 more Xian spirit stones to activate the formation? Chu Tianfeng immediately took out a bamboo slip. 100 Xian spirit stones it is. If he couldn't pay it off now, he could pay it off slowly. When he reached the insightful void realm, he would be able to pay it off. Thinking of this, Chu Tianfeng even felt a little happy. He finally owed Mengqi a large amount of spirit stones again. And this time, everyone should owe the same amount? 100 Xian spirit stones, I also want it. Qin Xiaoma turned to look at Mengqi. Mengqi. Then, Su Junmo hesitated and immediately said, I also want it. 100 Xian spirit stones, right? Mengqi. Li Che still didn't know what had happened. He raised his hand weakly and said, count me in. Hey. Ji Wujiang was so angry that he laughed. Wasn't he doing all the work for someone else? These people definitely didn't like him, that was for sure. It was not surprising that they were all on Mengqi's side. However, was he Ji Wujiang someone who was easily fooled and bullied? Mengqi. Xue Chengxian waved his hand, and his natal magic weapon, the small silver needle, flew to Mengqi's side. Count me in. Hey. Ji Wujiang was not angry. Instead he laughed. Mengqi, if you just learned it, don't blame me for not reminding you. If there are even a few mistakes in this array, the slightest mistake can lead to a huge mistake. You should know this. Mengqi nodded. I learned it a long time ago. Ji Wujiang sighed in relief. He didn't know whether he should be happy or disappointed. It turned out that Mengqi did not learn it just by watching him draw it once. After all, although this array was not particularly powerful, it was quite complicated and not easy to learn. However, it is indeed a little different from yours. Mengqi said. But, she held the silver medicine knife, squatted down, and quickly drew 2 small and exquisite arrays on the ground. Mengqi looked up at Ji Wujiang in this position. Is it like this? Ji Wujiang. His gaze swept across the two arrays. On the left, it was obviously taught by that mysterious person who convinced Meng Qi and wanted to be her disciple. The one on the right, Ji Wujiang silently stared at it for a moment. She really did learn it at a glance. There was no mistake at all. Meng Qi was already asking, "I've learned this array before." She hesitated for a moment and did not say what she learned it for. "I just didn't know it could be used on my natal magic treasure or weapon." Meng Qi tilted her head slightly and glanced at the two arrays that looked very similar. There are some differences between these two arrays, but they should be similar arrays, right? Ji Wujiang. Yes. Why did he feel like he was losing out? She had not even been his disciple yet, and she was still asking questions. The key was that he couldn't help but answer. Meng Qi reached out with one hand and took out his IOU. One question, 509th grade spirit stones. Ji Wujiang snorted softly but did not object. After all, Meng Qi was not asking him to teach. She only needed him to answer yes or no. 509th grade spirit stones was not a loss for him. But why can it only be used in the Starfall Sea? Meng Qi was deep in thought. She turned to look at Ji Wujiang and asked again, "If I leave the Starfall Sea, can I still use it?" Ji Wujiang was silent for a moment and slowly nodded. "You can." "I see." Meng Qi suddenly understood. "I understand. The most special thing about the Starfall Sea was the existence of the 5-spirit vital energy. Meng Qi's 5-spirit cauldron could transform spirit energy into the 5-spirit vital energy. Therefore, her two questions sounded a bit strange to others, and Ji Wujiang's answers were also quite strange. But the two of them understood. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiuma looked at each other. Did Meng Qi and Ji Wujiang's relationship become so good? Although they lived and died together in the barrier of the competition, it was obvious that they had secrets that only they knew. And these secrets were also unknown to them. "Is this the same as the stars?" Meng Qi asked again. "Although the effects are the same, there are some subtle differences." Ji Wujiang. "Yes. I understand." Meng Qi nodded. She stood up and swept her foot over the two formations, erasing the traces on the ground. Meng Qi turned to Ji Wujiang and smiled. "Judging from the formations, mine seems to be more suitable for cultivators than yours." Beside them, Chu Tianfeng and the others were completely confused. Only Su Junmo knew a little about formations, and knew what they were talking about. However, if fellow Taoist Ji didn't remind me, I wouldn't have known that this formation could be used like this. Meng Qi stretched out her hand to count the people. Chu Tianfeng, Qin Xiuma. 1, 2, 3, 7 people, including myself, 8 people. She held the IOU. 100 Xian spirit stones per person. You take half and deduct 400 Xian spirit stones from yourself. Is there a problem? Ji Wujiang. No problem. Even he didn't think that there was a problem with this calculation method. After all, with his relationship with Xue Qingxian and the others, if Meng Qi didn't testify for him, these people wouldn't believe him at all. Even if Meng Qi testified for him, these people probably wouldn't believe him. Tsk Ji Wujiang sized up Meng Qi. The green-robed girl's expression had been calm since the first time they met. Except for the change in expression because of the mysterious spell cultivator that she wanted to acknowledge as her master, she really didn't look any different at all. Okay. Meng Qi nodded. The primordial spirit of a demon cultivator. Meng Qi picked up the IOU and directly crossed out 100 Xian spirit stones this time. What's the difference between this and a cultivator's natal talisman and weapon? Ji Wujiang was silent for a moment and slowly said, "The primordial spirit is similar to a cultivator's avatar. It's not the same as a natal talisman or weapon. However, a demon cultivator's body can coexist with a formation, so it can still be used." "Thank you." Meng Qi nodded and smiled sweetly at Ji Wujiang. "Okay, now you only owe me 490 Xian spirit stones." More than half of the debt was gone, but Ji Wujiang wasn't happy at all. He saw that the green-robed girl had already started to get busy without hesitation. She drew a formation and then waved her slender hand lightly, and 7 Xian spirit stones flew out. The girl's green figure was graceful, like a butterfly flying through flowers. In fact, Ji Wujiang had already discovered that Meng Qi's talent in formations was slightly above her talent in medicine. She really understood with a little. No. Sometimes, she didn't even need a little instruction to understand, and it was especially easy to teach. In just a short moment, she had already engraved a formation on the natal talismans, or weapons of Chu Tianfeng and the other cultivators. Then it was Su Junmo and Si Gongxing's turn. Su Junmo was fine, but Meng Qi only hesitated for a moment, and then left a formation on the primordial spirit he summoned. She also threw out 7 Xian spirit stones with a raise of her hand. That 5-tailed white fox, which was as small as a ball of fur, howled and hugged all the Xian spirit stones in its arms. Its small claws couldn't hold them all, so it raised its 2 big furry tails and folded over from behind, hugging the 7 Xian spirit stones with its small claws. A pair of big round, pitch-black eyes looked at Meng Qi, looking cute and intelligent. Meng Qi pursed her lips, and the hand holding the medicine knife slightly tightened. So cute. She had seen Su Junmo's original form before. It was an exceptionally beautiful 5-tailed white fox without a single strand of variegated fur. It had pointed ears, big round, pitch-black eyes, and fluffy fur all over. Other than being a chatterbox, it was actually very good-looking. But compared to the little white fox in front of her, it completely paled in comparison. When they were fighting with the snow-toothed bees earlier, Su Junmo had also summoned his primordial spirit, but Meng Qi wasn't in the mood to observe carefully at that time. At this time, the little white fox was hugging the spirit stones and obediently floating in front of her. Its big eyes were still looking around, and 2 of its 5 furry little tails came over to hold the spirit stones with its small claws, while the remaining 3 swayed behind it. Cute. Meng Qi slowly exhaled. It was really super cute. Her heart moved slightly, and she suddenly realized. Su Junmo's primordial spirit was actually not in the form of a shrunken adult white fox, but in the form of a young fox. Didn't that mean Meng Qi subconsciously swallowed? Did that mean that Qing Yan's Henjun's primordial spirit was probably in the form of little Qi? She wanted to see it. Meng Qi. Si Gongxing looked at Meng Qi curiously. Sorry. Meng Qi quickly turned her head. She was actually distracted for a moment. She raised her eyes and looked into the distance. The snow wolves were still fighting with the snakes. They were all strange beasts of the Starfall Sea, and the snow wolves themselves wouldn't lose to these snakes. But there were really too many snakes. It wouldn't be long before the snow wolves were completely defeated. Now was not the time to think about this. Meng Qi quickly shook her head and turned to look at Si Gongxing. Si Gongxing was still in the nascent soul stage, and had yet to condense a primordial spirit. Meng Qi reached out and held her hands. Xing, relax. Don't be afraid. I won't hurt you. I know. Si Gongxing nodded heavily. Meng Qi separated a strand of her divine consciousness, and carefully probed into her good friend's body. It wasn't the first time she saw the spirit sea of a demon cultivator. It was completely different from the spirit sea of the cultivators from the 3,000 domains. Above the spirit sea, there were faint reflections of the stars. At this moment, they were in the Starfall Sea. There was probably no place in the 3 realms where the spirit energy in the starlight was denser than here. In the reflections of the stars above Si Gongxing's spirit sea, starlight constantly sprinkled down. It looked rich, pure, and very beautiful. Meng Qi slowly exhaled, and her divine consciousness probed into the air above Si Gongxing's spirit sea. Her movements were nimble, and she quickly carved a formation above the other party's spirit sea. As soon as the formation was completed, a large amount of spirit energy flew up from the spirit sea, and was instantly absorbed by the formation. Meng Qi was stunned. This formation was called the Minor Heavenly Cycle Formation. It required 7 mystic spirit stones to activate. With Si Gongxing's current cultivation level, she couldn't support its operation at all. Ji Wujiang crossed his arms in front of his chest, and the corners of his lips curled up. Meng Qi is still asking me. He suddenly widened his eyes and looked at the scene in front of him in disbelief. Not only Ji Wujiang, but everyone else also widened their eyes in surprise. Even Si Gongxing opened her eyes and looked at Meng Qi in disbelief. Meng Qi. Just as she muttered, the spirit energy around her suddenly surged. Xing subconsciously looked up. In the sky, thick black clouds began to gather. I. She was about to cry. I forgot that I'm at the peak stage of nascent soul. I can undergo tribulation at any time. Mengqi carved a formation above her spirit sea, and not only did it instantly drain the spirit energy in her spirit sea, but it also instantly absorbed the spirit energy in her spirit sea. Because they were in the sea of falling stars, starlight was everywhere. After the minor heavenly cycle formation instantly drained Xing's spirit sea, the formation of the stars in her body thought that its master was facing a fatal threat, and suddenly began to crazily absorb the spirit energy in the surrounding starlight. Xing's spirit sea suddenly emptied, and then suddenly filled up. After going back and forth 3 times, she was already at the peak stage of nascent soul, and was on the verge of undergoing tribulation. In an instant, she only felt that her whole body was full, as if it was going to explode at any time. Su Junmo. Xing, are you serious? Undergoing tribulation in the sea of falling stars, was this a blessing or a curse? Even the experienced and knowledgeable fox Su Junmo was a little uncertain. Xing stomped her feet. The black clouds above her head were getting thicker and thicker, as if they would crush her at any time and crush her. Mengqi looked up, and saw that lightning had already begun to flash in the black clouds. It wouldn't be long before terrifying lightning struck down from the sky. What should I do now? Countless thoughts flashed through Mengqi's mind. She subconsciously turned to look at Ji Wujiang. After meeting the unfathomable eyes of the black-robed young man, she quickly turned away. Tribulation, terrifying tribulation lightning, chaotic spirit energy in the sea of falling stars, and a group of snakes in the distance that were eyeing them covetously. As soon as the snow wolves were dealt with, they would attack them. Mengqi couldn't help but look up at the sky again. She came from the sky observation mirror. She didn't know if Qing Yan's Henjun was still next to the sky observation mirror, and would occasionally cast a glance at her. Thinking that whether it was intentional or not, Yin Qingyan might occasionally see her. Mengqi felt that she calmed down. Mengqi. Xing's tone was tinged with panic. As she spoke, she looked up at the sky again. The black clouds were getting thicker and thicker. The group of snakes and snow wolves that were still fighting over there all glanced in their direction. Xing had never thought that she would undergo tribulation in the sea of falling stars, which was already an extremely dangerous place. Mengqi's thoughts turned even faster. In the sea of falling stars, the spirit energy in the starlight, the spirit energy in the mountains and rivers, and the devil energy that had been brewing for thousands of years, in the 3 realms. These should have belonged to the demon realm, the 3 realms, and the devil realm. They were the spirit energy that the cultivators of the 3 realms needed for their own cultivation. They were all very powerful here. Then perhaps undergoing tribulation here wasn't a bad thing. Misfortune is a blessing in disguise. As if he had guessed her thoughts, Ji Wujiang spoke faintly with a hint of sarcasm in his voice. The spirit energy in the sea of falling stars is more powerful than that of the 3 realms. Similarly, the tribulation lightning that one has to go through when undergoing tribulation is also far more powerful than that of the 3 realms. So how to turn misfortune into a blessing? He paused for a moment, then continued. Since this little fox was chosen by the Black Tortoise clan, she might have some innate abilities of their clan. Mengqi, do you know what the Black Tortoise clan is most proud of? It's the hard shell on their backs. It's said that they can easily withstand tribulation lightning below the insightful void realm, without leaving even a scratch. In the Black Tortoise clan, the disciples' innate talents are also judged by whose hard shell is harder and thicker. Since this little fox was chosen as a disciple of the Black Tortoise clan, and was chosen by the Black Tortoise clan, she might also have a hard shell. Shut up. Mengqi glared fiercely at Ji Wujiang. Xing was about to cry, but he was still making sarcastic remarks. Ji Wujiang sneered, but he was not angry. If you acknowledge me as your master now, I'll teach you how to turn misfortune into a blessing for her. Not only that, he looked at the group of snakes in the distance. Even those snakes will all be dealt with. The minor heavenly cycle formation that you painstakingly engraved on these people's natal magic weapons can also be put to good use. Also, Ji Wujiang looked at Meng Qi with a burning gaze. This little fox will be grateful to you, because she passed the tribulation in the fallen star sea and succeeded. From now on, she will be stronger than cultivators of the same level. He asked slowly. What do you think? Meng Qi's heart beat rapidly. She turned to look at Si Kongxing. The other party had obviously heard Ji Wujiang's words. A hint of struggle flashed across her beautiful face, and her pearly white teeth bit her lower lip tightly. When she saw Meng Qi looking at her, she quickly shook her head at her. What do you think? Meng Qi, Ji Wujiang said. Not only can I help your friend safely pass through this great tribulation and successfully advance to the spirit-severing stage, but once her primordial spirit comes out, it will immediately be stronger than that little white fox. All of this. His gaze was burning, and the sarcasm in his tone was completely restrained. His expression became serious. You only need to acknowledge me as your master. Meng Qi pursed her lips tightly. The black clouds rumbled, almost crushing through the sky. This was the fallen star sea, and passing the tribulation was the most dangerous thing in a cultivator's cultivation. Previously, Qin Xiaoma had narrowly escaped death and almost died. Si Kongxing's sudden tribulation was more or less because of her. Meng Qi looked at Ji Wujiang. But if she acknowledged this person as her master from now on, would she pursed her lips and asked in a deep voice. You promise? Ji Wujiang put his right index and middle fingers together, and pressed them directly to his chest. I swear on my soul that if I deceive Meng Qi, I will serve her as my master from now on and never dare to betray her for the rest of my life. Su Junmo, Si Kongxing. Meng Qi gritted her teeth and turned to look at her good friend again. She opened her mouth and was about to blurt out the word okay, when a clear and pleasant male voice sounded in her ears. Meng Qi. Yin Qingyan's voice was like rain falling from the sky to Meng Qi at this time. Don't be afraid. Meng Qi subconsciously raised her head and looked at the sky. The tribulation clouds were rolling, and the black clouds were pressing down menacingly, almost completely covering the sky above them. At this time, the morning sun had already risen, and the heavenly light scattered from the distant sky, outside the tribulation clouds. Yin Qingyan's voice sounded in her ears, but it was warmer than the heavenly light. Use the Great Star Formation. Use the Great Star Formation in reverse. He paused and said, Put your 5 spirit cauldron in the center of the Great Star Formation. Fan Sha, the tribulation thunder from the Sea of Fallen Stars. Chapter 118. Yes. Meng Qi was only stunned for a moment before nodding heavily. Xing. She decisively turned to look at Si Kongxing. Come with me. After Meng Qi finished speaking, she walked forward. At this time, the battle between the snow wolves and the snakes in the distance was about to end. However, there were more and more black clouds in the sky, and many small sparks were passing through the black clouds. Those snakes were also strange beasts that had lived in the Starfall Sea for many years. So how could they not know the power of the tribulation clouds? The snakes that had already begun to spread towards Meng Qi, and the others all slowed down and slowly gathered together. Meng Qi held the medicine knife horizontally and rushed forward. She raised her eyes and looked forward. There were more and more snakes gathering, and it looked even colder under the black clouds. The colorful snakes slowly gathered together. Some snakes climbed on top of other snakes, and the snakes stacked higher and higher. At this time, a long howl came from the distance. The last 3 snow wolves fell to the ground. The snakes that had besieged them gathered around their own clan, and climbed up along their clansmen that were about to set up a framework. In the blink of an eye, a huge snake appeared outside the edge of the tribulation clouds. It was at least hundreds of feet tall, and its body was made up of countless snakes. It coldly coiled on the ground, and there were 2 deep black holes where its eyes were. Although there were no eyes, it seemed to have its own will, looking down at Meng Qi and the others. The snakes stopped moving and coldly coiled outside the edge of the tribulation clouds. They didn't seem to intend to attack for the time being, but they obviously didn't intend to leave either. Su Junmo's eyes were filled with deep worry. They are dragon transformation. Ji Wujiang finished the sentence. He looked around, and the corners of his lips curled up slightly, and a few traces of excitement flashed in his eyes. I didn't expect this ancient demon clan formation to be hidden in the Starfall Sea. Su Junmo's eyes narrowed, and his expression became even more serious. What is dragon transformation? Li Che asked. Su Junmo took a deep breath and shook his head solemnly. That's just hearsay. Legend has it that in ancient times, the snake clan had a life-saving magic treasure. When enough snakes gathered together, they could rely on this magic treasure to transform into a dragon. Dragon? Li Che was stunned. Su Junmo nodded and said in a deep voice, "It's one of the demon realm's celestial demon royal race, the dragon." Just as he finished speaking, 2 golden snakes suddenly crawled onto the giant snake's head. They were coiled around the snake's head, and the 2 golden snake heads were raised. They really did look like dragon horns. So they're going to... Li Che looked up at the sky. Their team seemed to have a backbone, and they were more cohesive than before. Su Zijuan calmed his mind. Almost at the same time, with a clang, his and Qin Xiuma's life source long swords flew into the air side by side, pointing at the 2 golden snakes from afar. Su Junmo's expression was serious, and his primordial spirit had been released. It floated in the air, and his gaze met the giant snakes from afar. As one of the demon realm's heavenly demon aristocrats who cultivated the 8 trigrams, he was the most nervous when the ancient inheritance of the demon realm, which had been lost for tens of thousands of years and only existed in legends, suddenly appeared. He had accidentally seen a record in a very old book, and it was said that the snakes could only transform into a dragon if they united. The power of the first attack was earth-shattering, and it was even stronger than the heavenly demon azure dragon of the same level. Su Junmo looked at Meng Qi, who was still busy, and then looked up at the black clouds in the sky. He subconsciously turned his head to look at Ji Wujiong, who was standing beside him. The black-robed man was also looking at Meng Qi, but the corners of his lips were slowly lowering, and a strange and complicated light flashed in his eyes, as if he was happy and surprised. Su Junmo took a deep breath, but countless thoughts flashed through his mind. Was it him? His gaze fell on Ji Wujiong's unscathed left face, and his handsome face was not inferior to his lord's. The 3 scars on the right side of his face were rolling with black energy, and it looked particularly terrifying. Most importantly, this person in the boundary of the competition, an array formation, actually reflected the heavenly demon phoenix. It had to be known that the heavenly demon royal family was never driven by any cultivator. According to the ancient books, even the most powerful ancient array formation could not summon the heavenly demon royal family. Unless, Su Junmo narrowed his eyes slightly, unless it was the royal family themselves. Or they were willing to be driven by someone they could entrust their name to. Su Junmo's gaze moved slightly, and fell on the busy green figure not far away. Ever since Meng Qi helped him detoxify the poison, some scattered but very real scenes kept flashing through his mind. Those things had never happened, and he clearly remembered that the first time he met Meng Qi was on the floating island of the Xian auction house in Sky Beyond Heaven. Those fragments in his mind told him that it was not the first time Meng Qi had saved him. Those fragments were not connected, but Meng Qi's figure definitely appeared in every fragment. Sometimes, they were together in an unfamiliar forest that Su Junmo was sure he had never been to before. He could see that he could not even maintain his human form at that time, and could only lie on the dead leaves in the forest in his original form of a white fox, with 5 white and fluffy tails drooping behind his back. In other words, he was already in the spirit-severing stage at that time. The heavenly demon White Fox clan divided their realms by their tails, and he had just reached the spirit-severing stage not long ago and had only grown his 5th tail. So when exactly did those scenes take place? In the future? Su Junmo looked at Meng Qi thoughtfully. The girl in the green robe who appeared in those fragments also had a slender waist and a thin figure, and her elegant face was as calm as it was now. She seemed to despise him for talking too much. Su Junmo was not unfamiliar with that expression. Along the way from Cool Breeze Valley to Burnt City, and then to Fallen Star City, Meng Qi and the others often despised him for talking too much. But no matter how much she despised him, she did not abandon him and leave. Su Junmo was not surprised. This was really something that Meng Qi would do. In some fragments, Meng Qi seemed to be injured. Her green robe was stained with coagulated blood, and her thin body was kneeling on the ground. In front of her lay a man in a black robe. The man was handsome, and seemed to be seriously injured. His eyes were tightly shut. Beside Mengqi was a pill cauldron. The pill cauldron was surrounded by purple gas, flashing with a clear light, and the fragrance of medicine wafted in all directions. She was holding a silver needle in her hand. Her fingers were slender, very steady and very calm. It was impossible to tell that the strong wind behind her was like a knife, and it was hitting her thin back and shoulders heavily. Was it him? Su Junmo's gaze fell on Ji Wujiang's face again. Was the man in the black robe lying on the ground Ji Wujiang? He was not in this fragment, so why did he see it? What happened at that time? Su Junmo was full of doubts, but he was sure of one thing. These fragments all appeared in his mind after Mengqi cured him of the snowtooth bee's poison. So he frowned slightly. So how did this come about? Also, Su Junmo took a deep breath. In addition to this, he also saw his master in these fragments. The white-robed demon lord stood at the intersection of the demon world, the devil world, and the 3,000 worlds. Su Junmo had heard of that place before, but he had never set foot there in his life. It was said that that was the most dangerous place in the 3 realms. Compared to that place, the Starfall Sea was simply a beautiful garden with a gentle breeze and drizzle. The will of the heavenly Tao of the 3 realms intertwined there, and together with the power of the barrier that separated the 3 realms, it constantly tore apart time and space. Su Junmo had seen several records about that place in the ancient books. It was said that tens of thousands of years ago, the Mahayana cultivators of the 3 realms of the ancient era had to pass through before they attained the Tao and ascended. If one crossed it barefoot, one's body would become a saint. If one stepped into the void step by step, one could attain the Tao and ascend to become a saint. However, that was just a record. The legendary mighty figures of the past had not returned to the 3 realms after they ascended to become saints tens of thousands of years ago. And for tens of thousands of years, no cultivator in the 3 realms could ascend to become a saint. It was said that even if a Mahayana cultivator entered that place, it was very likely that they would be torn to pieces and die. However, just now, when Mengqi was curing Su Junmo of the snowtooth bee's poison, Su Junmo saw this legendary place in one of the fragments that suddenly drilled into his mind. This was a truly dangerous place that he felt that he would not set foot in even after tens of thousands of years. He also seemed to see the white-robed demon lord standing at the peak of the mountain with his robes fluttering in the wind. His gaze was like a blade of ice, and his voice was even colder and more ancient than the snow in the winter. The heavenly Tao has wronged me, so? I am the heavenly Tao. How could he see such a master? Ugh! Su Junmo frowned and suddenly grunted. His mind suddenly felt as if it had been pricked by thousands of thin needles. The image instantly dissipated and then pieced together again. The white-robed demon lord's figure became blurry. He was still looking at his master and speaking, but he could no longer hear what the other party was saying. Su Junmo shook his head. Even the fragment that he remembered earlier had become blurry. The forbidden area of the 3 realms, the white-robed demon lord, and even the image of the tall mountain seemed to gradually dissipate. Su Junmo shook his head again. He frowned slightly and a trace of doubt flashed through his mind. He felt that he must have recalled something extremely important just now, but he could no longer remember what he had recalled. He focused his gaze on Mengqi. The memories of the green-robed girl were still there. Her figure appeared in every fragment. But why did he feel that he should have recalled more things? Xing. Before a thought flashed through Su Junmo's mind, he saw Mengqi put away the medicine knife and a soft shout interrupted his memories. Mengqi panted heavily. The back of her green robe was completely soaked in sweat. Even with the help of the phoenix fruit, her spirit energy was still severely overdrawn. She waved her hand, and the 5-spirit cauldron floated to the center of the array. Mengqi flicked her hand, and threw a handful of mystic spirit stones into the 5-spirit cauldron. Star array. Xing stood in the center of the array, and looked down at the ground. She was completely stunned. She recognized this array. Every heaven demon had this star array in their body from the moment they were born. Different demon clans had different star arrays. It was this array that could help them absorb the spirit energy in the starlight for cultivation. Xikongxing also knew that the demon realm had always coveted their star arrays. Therefore, the demon realm cruelly killed weaker demon clans and used a secret technique to take away their star arrays. However, this was very rare, especially the star arrays of the Heaven Demon Royal clan. Only they could be called great arrays. It was impossible for other clans to learn them. Even if a cultivator who was proficient in Dharma arrays saw someone else draw them, and could draw them exactly the same, it was useless. The masters of the star arrays were all powerful Heaven Demon Royal clans. Without their consent, no one could learn them. But Mengqi, she was a human golden core cultivator from the Trichiliocosm. Once she made a move, Xikongxing felt like the entire world had turned into a fantasy. She looked up at Mengqi. The green-robed girl was standing outside the array. Her forehead was covered in fine beads of sweat. A few strands of her hair were soaked in sweat and stuck to her fair cheeks. Xing. Mengqi noticed her gaze and smiled at her. "Don't be afraid." Xikongxing hurriedly shook her head. Mengqi threw out another handful of mystic spirit stones. The 5 spirit cauldrons seemed to come alive and began to spin rapidly. Su Junmo was not that surprised. He was now certain that Mengqi would be his master's future Dao companion. In addition, he remembered the entanglement between himself and Mengqi in those vivid memories. He took a deep breath and turned his gaze to the tribulation clouds in the sky. So be it. Maybe in the future, the entire demon realm would have to respectfully address her as Your Majesty. It was not unusual. Only Ji Wujiang looked at this scene in a daze. He was the only one present who knew that Mengqi, a cultivator from the Trichiliocosm, knew about the star arrays. Moreover, he knew that if Mengqi used the Grand Astral Formation, he would be able to find out who the expert she cared about so much that she would risk her life to protect was. Ji Wujiang's gaze was a little dazed. He looked at Xikongxing. Above the other party's head, the 5 spirit cauldron was spinning wildly. Hundreds of mystic spirit stones were jumping wildly in Mengqi's natal cauldron. A huge pillar of spirit qi suddenly gushed out and poured into the array on the ground. The spirit qi lit up and the star arrays were activated. The array's light soared into the sky. In the sky, the huge vortex of tribulation clouds began to spin wildly. As if stimulated, countless bolts of lightning struck down and illuminated the sky above them. The light and the star arrays on the ground intertwined, and the light overflowed. The giant snakes that had already turned into dragons not far away seemed to smell danger, and subconsciously retreated a few steps. "It's too late," Ji Wujiang muttered silently in his heart. He looked contemptuously at the giant snakes that were still greedily entrenched in the distance, waiting to reap the benefits. These idiots! Can't they feel the majestic aura of a king in this star arrays? Ji Wujiang's gaze focused slightly, and suddenly looked into the distance. He knew early on that their movements had already attracted more beasts from the Starfall Sea. There were huge fierce eagles, small but fearless poisonous ants, and even an azure ape that had already reached the peak of the insightful void stage, and was about to step into the insightful truth stage. The moment the star arrays lit up, those beasts suddenly turned around and ran desperately in all directions. Ji Wujiang curled his lips and suddenly looked up at the sky. The Demon Lord token had not returned, and was still in the hands of that person. Although the beasts were in the Starfall Sea and were no longer under the power of the Demon Lord token, they were still demons after all. The fear of the Demon Lord was in their blood, and had already penetrated deep into their bones and flesh. Xiaoshiding. Info. Even if these beasts did not listen to the Demon Lord token, they were not willing to be enemies with the holder of the token. So it was him. Ji Wujiang was a little emotional. The guy that Mengqi was thinking about was actually him. It was really mysterious. That person had a cold nature, and was not interested in anything. With the Demon Lord token in hand, he seemed to be too lazy to be the master of the revival of the demon world, and did everything as he pleased. Ji Wujiang thought that Mengqi would be involved with the Heavenly Demon Royal family, and also thought that he would be a member of the Heavenly Demon White Tiger clan. But he never thought that it would be that person. The star arrays, ha 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 ha. Ji Wujiang almost laughed out loud. Even the star arrays passed to Mengqi. His feelings were as deep as the sea. Even he was moved. But did he know? Meng Qi only wanted to be his disciple, and did not have that kind of interest in him at all. Ji Wujiang suddenly felt comfortable all over. Even Su Junmo and the others who were standing at the side were much more pleasing to the eye. These thoughts only flashed through his mind for a moment. In the blink of an eye, a huge lightning bolt crazily streaked across the sky and struck straight at the Xikong Xing. With a loud rumble, the five-spirit cauldron bore the brunt of the lightning tribulation, and bore the brunt of the impact. Ugh! Meng Qi groaned as her spiritual sea shook. Meng Qi. Xikong Xing stood in the center of the star arrays and turned to look at her. Are you okay? The five-spirit cauldron spun crazily as the star arrays lit up, and absorbed the huge power contained in the lightning tribulation. Xikong Xing became relaxed instead. Meng Qi nodded. Her spiritual sea had been shaken crazily just now, and her entire body was stiff. For a moment, she could not say a word. Star. After finally catching her breath, Meng Qi looked up at Xikong Xing. Black thunder. Yes. Xikong Xing nodded. The red-clothed woman's eyes were as bright as stars as she suddenly turned to the giant snakes that had turned into dragons not far away. The two golden snakes that were coiled around the heads of the snakes as dragon horns twisted their bodies twice. The dangerous aura seemed to be closer. However, they did not believe that these spirit-severing and nascent soul-stage prey could do anything to them. When the 5 layers of tribulation lightning struck down layer by layer, and these people were all exhausted, they could take advantage of the situation and eat to their heart's content. The red-clothed girl raised her right hand and light flickered on her fingertips. With a loud rumble, a huge black water pillar soared into the sky, carrying flickering lightning as it charged towards the huge serpents that had transformed into dragons. Dang! Ji Wujiang's eyes flashed slightly. A little girl like Scarlet Fox could actually use the Black Tortoise clan's water-type magic art with such momentum. He somewhat understood why that person from the Black Tortoise clan took Xikong Xing as his disciple. Star. Meng Qi shouted again. She panted softly. Her spiritual sea was still shaking crazily, and she could not use even a trace of spiritual energy. Got it. Xikong Xing crossed her hands and slowly closed her eyes. Her feet slowly left the ground and her hair was blown up by the wind. With a loud rumble, a bolt of lightning that was even more terrifying and powerful than the previous one struck down with a loud rumble. The 5-spirit cauldron spun, and the huge bolt of lightning passed through it, and struck straight towards Xikong Xing's head. She raised her hand and before the black water column could reach the giant snakes that had turned into dragons, another even bigger water column rushed towards them. Rumble. The third bolt of lightning struck down. Xikong Xing took a deep breath and another water column rose from the ground. With a rumble, the fourth bolt of lightning struck down. Ugh! Meng Qi groaned again, and the 5-spirit cauldron made a loud clang. She bent over and her spiritual sea was almost smashed. Don't be afraid. Yin Qingyan's gentle voice sounded in her ears again. Relax your whole body. No need. Meng Qi took a deep breath and closed her eyes forcefully. She stood up straight and said, I can do it myself. Although Yin Qingyan didn't finish his sentence, she had already guessed what he was going to do. Not long ago, his 5 spirits had almost collapsed and he had suffered chi deviation. Now that his internal injuries had not healed, he didn't need to do these things for her. She could do it herself. Meng Qi slowly stood up straight and her eyes lit up. She had to become stronger, so that she could stay by his side for a longer time. Meng Qi took a deep breath and her gaze fell on her 5-spirit cauldron. In the 5-spirit cauldron, which had withstood for lightning tribulations, some transparent fine sand was deposited at the bottom of the cauldron. Although it was very little, it emitted a soft amber light and looked exceptionally beautiful. With a rumble, the last bolt of lightning struck down. There was even more amber fine sand in the 5-spirit cauldron. Then, as if it had turned into liquid, it began to flow along the belly of the cauldron, and evenly smeared the belly of the small cauldron. Ah! Xikong Xing raised her head and howled. The ground she was standing on seemed to have turned into a vast ocean. Huge black waves soared into the sky, and rushed towards the giant snakes that had turned into dragons. At this moment, the golden snake seemed to feel fear. The giant snake collapsed and turned into countless small snakes again, which began to flee in all directions. But it was too late. The water column and the huge waves quickly engulfed them completely. Chapter 119. Amidst the rumbling thunder and lightning, the dense black tribulation clouds crazily revolved around the huge vortex in the center. The radiance of the great star formation steadily protected Xing in the center. Above her head, Mengqi's five spirits cauldron was also spinning. The amber-colored fine sand inside the cauldron was overflowing and gradually enveloping the entire cauldron. Mengqi stood outside the formation. The five-spirit cauldron was her natal cauldron, and was naturally connected to her mind. Even though they were separated by a distance, she seemed to be able to feel the joy from the small cauldron. Most of the spiritual energy in the tribulation thunder and lightning was absorbed by the great star formation, and then transformed into mighty spiritual energy that was fed back to Xing and her five-spirit cauldron. The remaining spiritual energy was also borrowed by Xing to attack the giant snakes that had turned into dragons. Su Junmo and the others, who were standing a little further away, saw the huge black wave rising to the sky and the thick water column heavily hitting the group of snakes that had turned into dragons. The snakes that had just begun to flee were swallowed by the huge wave in the blink of an eye. The water column was like a huge weapon, mercilessly crushing their bodies. Amidst the hissing sounds of the snakes, even the golden snake that stood the highest and vaguely seemed to be the leader of the snakes fell to the ground in a sorry state, and was quickly covered by the snakes that had fled in all directions. "Let's do it," Qin Xioma said. His and Su Zijuan's two long swords whistled and flew towards the snakes. The snakes that had fled in all directions had no time to dodge at all. With a sweep of the sword, smelly green blood spread out. Su Junmo flicked his finger, and his primordial spirit stood up cheerfully. With a soft hiss, it rushed towards the snakes as fast as lightning. Li Che and Xue Chengxian, who were standing beside him, also made a move. The two of them did not have many offensive spells, but at this time, the snakes had lost their fighting spirit and were completely at the mercy of others. They were not even comparable to the poisonous snakes outside the Starfall Sea. Chu Tianfeng stretched out his hand and pointed lightly. His natal magic weapon, the Red Lotus, also wanted to float towards the snakes. The snakes that had just been baptized by the huge wave of water column were soon faced with a wave of crazy burning flames. In the sky, the last bolt of lightning struck down. On the ground, the snakes were being chased by several people. In the end, only a small portion of them managed to escape. Mengqi turned his gaze back to Xing's face in the center of the star formation. The red-clothed girl's eyes were tightly closed. Her body was surrounded by spiritual energy that flickered and flickered. Her hands were already crossed, palms facing up, placed in front of her chest. Specks of red slowly condensed in her palm. The red halo grew bigger and brighter. Rumble. Accompanied by a final loud rumble, the clouds in the sky suddenly vanished, revealing the original sky of the Starfall Sea. The stars were still clear in the daytime, but Mengqi didn't know if it was her illusion, but she felt that the stars above their heads were slightly dimmer. Mengqi's gaze fell on Xing again. He saw that the red ball of light in Xing's palm was getting bigger and bigger. After it became slightly bigger than two fists, it suddenly jumped in Xing's palm. The dazzling light dissipated, and the red ball gently fell into the red-clothed girl's palm. The light of the star formation gradually extinguished, and the last bit of spiritual energy sank into the ground. The five spirits cauldron that had been spinning in the air also stopped. The small cauldron seemed to be very happy. It swayed from side to side in the air, and then flew unsteadily towards Mengqi. "Why do I feel that?" Chu Tianfeng was standing not far behind Mengqi. He walked side by side with Qin Xioma towards Mengqi, watching Mengqi's natal cauldron fly happily towards her in the air. Chu Tianfeng rubbed his eyes, thinking that he was seeing things. "Mengqi's small cauldron, did it get fatter?" Qin Xioma softly said, "Yes." The two of them didn't speak loudly, but because they were close, Mengqi still heard them. She tilted her head slightly and looked at her five spirits cauldron. She could feel the joy of the small cauldron. That kind of satisfaction made her, the owner, couldn't help but smile. In addition, Mengqi looked carefully, and found that the small cauldron did seem to be a little fatter. It wasn't a little fatter. It was just like a person who had eaten and drunk enough, swaying in the air and walking a little slowly. Mengqi waved her hand. The five spirits cauldron understood its master's meaning, but it still swayed and flew to Mengqi's side. She was delighted to see that the belly wall of the five spirits cauldron seemed to be painted with a layer of amber. Under the sunlight, it flashed with a pale golden light, as beautiful as colored glass. Mengqi stretched out her hand and gently pressed on the cauldron wall. A kind of heavy feeling, as if it carried the boundless heaven and earth, passed from the five spirits cauldron to her heart. It was Brahma sand, Mengqi muttered silently in her heart. The five spirits cauldron needed 5 kinds of heavenly and earthly treasures that represented the 5 spirits to be refined, and this Brahma sand represented earth. Although the 5 spirits cauldron looked not much bigger than her 2 hands, from now on, when Mengqi used it to refine elixirs, she could refine thousands of medicinal herbs in one cauldron. As long as she had enough medicinal herbs. This was the magical effect of Brahma sand. Mengqi remembered what Yin Qingyan had said just now. So Brahma sand came from under the tribulation clouds in the Starfall Sea? No wonder this name was only spread in the 3,000 worlds, but very few people had really seen it. The Starfall Sea was a dangerous place, and how many cultivators dared to come here to undergo tribulation? She couldn't help but look up at the sky. At this time, the clouds had already dispersed, and the sky of the Starfall Sea was far from as clear as the outside world. Even during the day, the sky was always a faint yellow, as if even the sky had a heavy aura from ancient times. She lowered her eyes and looked at her new 5 spirits cauldron with joy. Just at this time, Xing also slowly landed on the ground and opened her eyes. Her eyes were brighter than before. She had just advanced to the spirit severing stage, and her spiritual sea was more than 10 times larger than that of the nascent soul stage. The mighty spiritual aura filled her spiritual sea, and she couldn't control the spiritual aura in her body for the time being. Xing's aura was a little chaotic, and her spiritual aura spurted out and retracted from time to time. Even the fur of the fiery red little thing in her palms was a little messy, because of her spiritual aura. Mengqi. As soon as Xing opened her eyes, she ran happily towards Mengqi. I actually succeeded in transcending tribulation just like that. I'm already a 5th stage demon cultivator. As she spoke, she held the fluffy fiery red little thing and jumped to Mengqi's side. Mengqi's eyes flashed slightly, and his attention was instantly attracted by the little thing in Xing's palm. It was a fiery red fox with 5 fluffy little tails. It was also fluffy, and the edges of its pointed red little ears were ink black. The 5-tailed little red fox was about the same size as Xing's palms. It was lying obediently in her palm, and its big round eyes were wide open, looking around curiously. Is this? Mengqi licked his lips, and his voice was slightly hoarse. Your primordial spirit? Yes, yes. Xing raised the little red fox in her palm a little higher, and put it in front of Mengqi's eyes. Do you want to touch it? Can I? Mengqi asked, but before Xing could answer, her hand had already moved first. She carefully put her finger on the 5-tailed little red fox's head. It felt fluffy to the touch, just like an ordinary little fox spirit beast. The fiery red little fox seemed to be very happy. Mengqi's finger on its head didn't move for the time being. The little red fox even tilted its head and obediently rubbed against her finger. Cute. So cute. Mengqi's finger trembled slightly, and she pursed her dry lips. She looked up at Xing, and her voice was even hoarser than before. I can really touch it. Go ahead, Xing said generously. It's okay. Mengqi didn't hold back anymore. She covered the 5-tailed little red fox's head with her palm and rubbed it a few times. When our primordial spirits leave the spirit sea and transform, they are similar to our main bodies, Su Junmo said as he walked to the 2 of them. Mengqi turned to look at him. Su Junmo's primordial spirit, the 5-tailed little white fox, was lying obediently on his shoulder. It opened its big black eyes and looked curiously at the little red fox in Xing's palm. Its 5 fluffy tails were swaying behind it, and it looked equally cute. Mengqi looked at it enviously. It felt so good to be a heavenly demon. Just as this thought flashed through her mind, she felt her fingers being hugged by a pair of fluffy little paws. Mengqi quickly turned to look. Xing's little red fox was hugging her fingers with its two front paws, and its little head was rubbing against her again. As it rubbed against her, it looked at her with its big round eyes. Woo! It was too cute. Mengqi couldn't take it anymore. She wished she could have a primordial spirit like this. Xing couldn't help but smile sweetly. It likes you very much, Mengqi. She blushed. Just like me. Primordial spirits can indeed reflect their master's thoughts. Su Junmo chuckled as he watched Mengqi happily playing with the little red fox. Xing is on good terms with you, so her primordial spirit naturally likes you too. Okay. Mengqi used both of her hands. She stroked the little red fox's head and back, and gently scratched its chin. As expected, the little guy lay comfortably in its master's palm. Its eyes were slightly narrowed, and its little head nodded as if it was enjoying it very much. So cute. Mengqi sighed softly. It would be great if I could have a primordial spirit. It's okay. Xing said. Tell me when you want to stroke it, and I'll let it come out. Can I? Mengqi's mind moved. Won't this affect it? A cultivator's soul-bound talisman, or weapon would not be summoned unless it was absolutely necessary. They had to be in the air above the Ling Xi at all times, nourished by Ling Qi and spiritual consciousness. Only then could they become more powerful and more connected with their master. Mengqi had always been like this, and Yao cultivators' primordial spirits should be similar. It's okay. Xing waved her hand generously. That little bit of time doesn't matter. Thank you, Xing. Mengqi's eyes narrowed in a smile. She stroked the little red fox and looked closely at the cute little guy. Is it the same as your original form? As Mengqi spoke, he turned back to look at the five-tailed white fox lying on Su Junmo's shoulder. That little guy was also a furry ball, and was exceptionally cute. It did not look like a miniature version of Su Junmo's original form, but his appearance when he was young. Oh, as expected, Xing said. It's my appearance when I was young. So nice. Mengqi couldn't help but sigh. Will it grow up? It won't, Xing explained. My father's primordial spirit also has the appearance of a little fox, so actually. When she said this, she suddenly giggled. So Mengqi, us normal Sky Yao are fine, but those great Sky Yao who are really powerful do not like to have their primordial spirits help them in battle. Especially those kings who stand at the peak. They are already very powerful, and do not need the help of their primordial spirits to deal with Xiuzha, who are weaker than them. So unless it is a battle of the same level, their primordial spirits usually will not appear. Ha 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 ha. Hearing this, Mengqi could not help but laugh out loud. Imagine a group of powerful Sky Yao kings who could call the wind and summon the rain, but when they fought, there would always be a little ball by their side. That scene would be too beautiful. Not only Mengqi, even Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiuma raised the corners of their lips and laughed. After a great battle, the snakes either died or fled. The surroundings seemed to have become quiet for the time being. They all relaxed a little. Mengqi lowered his head and pinched the little red fox's sharp ears. Sky Yao, this was really too cool. Even if it was raising Ling beasts would eventually grow up. Although some Ling beasts that grew up were beautiful and powerful, in the end, they were still not as cute as they were when they were young. They were so cute that it could melt one's heart. Mengqi's heart suddenly moved. Qin Yan's Henjun's primordial spirit was also like this. Like this, she thought of when the other party was still little Qi. Those semicircular little ears, soft white fur, and soft and cute little claws. Mengqi's heart suddenly itched. She was naturally very happy that little Qi was actually Yin Qingyan. However, after seeing the other party's true form as a Sky Yao white tiger, Mengqi still felt a little disappointed in the depths of his heart. That disappointment was very faint, and was completely suppressed by the joy of reuniting with Yin Qingyan. Mengqi had never seriously thought about it. But now, that very, very faint trace of disappointment quietly crept out. How great would it be if he could see the cute little white tiger little Qi again? What are you guys talking about? Shueqingxian and Li Che also walked over side by side. The two of them first cupped their hands towards Xikongxing, fellow Taoist. Congratulations on successfully transcending the tribulation and advancing to the spirit-severing stage. Thank you. Xikongxing hurriedly returned the salute. Mengqi. Li Che snapped his fingers. We found a golden snake. As soon as he finished speaking, the corpse of one of the golden snakes that had previously been coiled on the heads of the dragon snakes appeared in front of him. Mengqi hurriedly restrained his thoughts and shook his head to expel that somewhat rude thought from his mind. She looked up at the golden snake. Previously, when she saw it coiled on the heads of the dragon snakes from afar, she didn't think much of it. Now that it was close, Mengqi could even clearly see every scale and pattern on its body. This is... She was stunned, and her breathing suddenly became rapid. This is a golden-scaled snake? It should be. Shui Chengxian and Li Che both nodded. Good. Mengqi murmured. The golden-scaled snake of the 3,000 worlds has been extinct for thousands of years. I thought I would never see it again. Mengqi. Xikongxing saw that everyone had started to talk about business, so he quickly waved his hand and withdrew his primordial spirit. What is a golden-scaled snake? She was a heavenly demon aristocrat in the demon realm, but she had never heard of this name. This is the first time I've seen it, Mengqi said. I've only seen records of it in books. Legend has it that the gallbladder of the golden-scaled snake can cure all poisons in the world. However, it has been extinct for thousands of years. No one in the three realms has seen any traces of it. Everyone thought it had gone extinct. Then we're really lucky, Xikongxing said. More than that. Ji Wujiang swayed and stood beside Mengqi. This is a 6th-grade golden-scaled snake. It should have cultivated divine sense. As he spoke, he reached out and grabbed at the void, clenching his right hand into a fist. Ji Wujiang opened his palm, and a black dot of light the size of a rice grain spread out in his palm. Finally, it turned into a small brocade pouch and fell into his palm. This is the storage pouch of a strange beast. Su Junmo's eyes flashed slightly, and he explained. If a strange beast can cultivate divine sense, it can open up a space in its body to store things. However, when strange beasts and ferocious beasts are on the verge of death, their spiritual sea will tremble. They will always destroy the pouch first, unwilling to let the enemy get it. This time, we were lucky to get this pouch. Yes. Mengqi nodded. Now everyone was a little excited. This golden-scaled snake was obviously the leader of the group of snakes just now. Just now, when they were dealing with the wolf pack, they were exceptionally powerful. In this Starfall Sea, they should be considered to have a certain level of strength. Cultivators entered the Starfall Sea not only to cultivate and gain experience, but also for the natural treasures, spiritual medicines, and exotic flowers that were unique to this place. More importantly, they hoped that their luck would be good enough to find some things left behind by the almighty seniors who had entered the Starfall Sea in the past and unfortunately died here. This guy has lived in the Starfall Sea for so long, there should be some good things in his pouch, Su Junmo said again. However, no one moved first. The pouch was in Ji Wujiang's hands. This guy didn't get along with the others except for giving some face to Mengqi. Moreover, if it wasn't for Ji Wujiang, they wouldn't have been able to find the golden-scaled snake's pouch, let alone take it out intact. Ziyashiding. Info therefore, logically speaking, only Ji Wujiang was qualified to take the things in the pouch. Thinking of this, everyone was a little discouraged. It wasn't jealousy. No matter who in the group took the pouch, they wouldn't do anything. Only this sharp-tongued Ji Wujiang made everyone secretly angry. They didn't want such a good thing to happen to him. Ji Wujiang. At this time, only Mengqi could still say to Ji Wujiang, "Open it and see what's inside." Ji Wujiang raised his eyebrows and put two fingers together. A faint light flickered on his fingertips, and he tapped on the pouch. He immediately probed it with his spiritual energy and said lazily, "Tiske, this golden-scaled snake should be a tyrant at the edge of the Starfall Sea. This guy really collected a lot of good things." "Let me see." Mengqi reached out to him. Everyone, including Su Junmo, became nervous. Would Ji Wujiang give it to Mengqi? The black-robed man casually threw the pouch to Mengqi. It should have swallowed your medical cultivator senior. Meng Qi was startled, but still took the pouch. She probed it with her spiritual energy. She didn't know what material the pouch was made of, but it was neither silk nor leather. It was extremely flexible. She quickly scanned the pouch. There weren't many things inside. There was a bamboo scroll, 2 jade scrolls, and 3 or 4 slightly damaged magic treasures. There were 2 long swords, one of which was completely transparent, but was already broken in half. There were also some natural treasures that even Meng Qi didn't recognize, and a dozen green gem-like things. Finally, there was a pile of spirit stones in the depths of the pouch. Most of them were 8th grade and 9th grade spirit stones, but there were also some Xian spirit stones. Meng Qi scanned it with her spiritual energy and counted it clearly. This golden-scaled snake actually hoarded more than 1,000 Xian spirit stones, and more than 3,000 8th grade and 9th grade spirit stones. She took out the bamboo scroll and probed it with her spiritual energy. Suddenly, she understood why Ji Wujiang said that. It was a bamboo slip that recorded the experiences of that senior medical cultivator. Sometimes, such a thing was even more precious than a single magic incantation or pill formula among medical cultivators. Meng Qi's expression dimmed slightly. Countless ancestors' bones were buried in the vast land of the Starfall Sea. What is it? Xue Qingshuan's eyes moved slightly as he asked. Medical experience bamboo scroll, Meng Qi said hoarsely. Xue Chengxian slowly exhaled. Every year, the Wind Alliance would spend a lot of spirit stones or natural treasures to exchange for such bamboo scrolls. They wanted so much to enter the barrier of the competition and pass the test to obtain the approval of Lin Yan's will. It was also for this thing. The medical bamboo scroll found in the Starfall Sea was most likely from an insightful void, or even more powerful medical cultivator. The value of this bamboo scroll was already far above the reward Meng Qi paid for inscribing formations on their natal magic treasures today. If it was really confirmed to be a medical bamboo scroll from an insightful void, or even an insightful true realm medical cultivator, then the Wind Alliance would be willing to spend 10,000 Xian spirit stones to exchange for this bamboo scroll. He just didn't know if Meng Qi. His gaze fell on the green-robed girl's face, but he couldn't see the slightest thought from that elegant face. Hearing this, Li Chei's expression also dimmed slightly. He cupped his hands towards the bamboo scroll in Meng Qi's hand and bowed respectfully to the ground. Meng Qi held the bamboo scroll in his palm, and also bowed like Li Chei. Xue Chengxian was slightly startled and also bowed to the ground. The others looked at the 3 of them and didn't really understand the reason behind this. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiuma looked at each other. Memories surged into their minds, and their hearts were filled with mixed feelings. In fact, Meng Qi could represent the medical cultivators. They had their own persistence, and sometimes, other cultivators really couldn't understand it. For example, although Qin Xiuma and the others weren't medical cultivators, they knew that this bamboo scroll recorded the many years of medical experience of an unknown senior medical cultivator who died in the Starfall Sea. This seemed to be an unwritten rule that every medical cultivator would silently adhere to from the day they set foot on the path of medical cultivation. They would record down their experiences, knowledge and thoughts, and preserve them in the best brocade pouch. Even if they died and unfortunately fell, they would be able to preserve the bamboo slips and wait for their descendants to discover them, so that their life's experiences and painstaking efforts wouldn't be lost. It didn't matter even if the person who picked up this bamboo scroll in the future wasn't their descendant. This kind of bamboo scroll didn't have any seals or barriers on it, and anyone who picked it up could use it. This seemed to be an unwritten rule passed down from generation to generation among medical cultivators. Qin Xiuma and the others and Meng Qi came all the way from Qingfeng Valley to hear, and they also saw her record her medical knowledge and experience on the bamboo scroll. They also knew that this was a very precious treasure for medical cultivators. Qin Xiuma slightly lowered his eyelids and glanced at Ji Wujiang from the corner of his eyes. The other party was already a Dongxi realm cultivator, 2 levels higher than him. However, if Meng Qi wanted this bamboo scroll, he would do his best to snatch it for her. Ji Wujiang. Meng Qi stood up straight and turned to Ji Wujiang saying, "You found the brocade pouch, but you're now employed by me, So according to the rules, everything in the brocade pouch should be divided equally between us. Ji Wujiang was obviously in a good mood. Whatever you say. You can pick 2 items first, Meng Qi said as she handed the brocade pouch back to Ji Wujiang. The spirit stones will be divided equally. Meng Qi. Ji Wujiang reached out to her. Give me that bamboo scroll. I want to choose it. Meng Qi's face immediately flushed. She subconsciously clenched the bamboo scroll in her hand. But she stammered a little, which was rare for her. This thing is useless to you. You're not a medical cultivator. She had been in contact with Ji Wujiang for a long time. She could already tell that he wasn't a medical cultivator, but was good at using poison. Yes, Ji Wujiang nodded carelessly. I'm not a medical cultivator, but who said it's useless to me? Then I'll buy it. Meng Qi hesitated for a moment, then turned to ask Xue Qingxian. This bamboo scroll was left behind by a senior at the peak of the Dongshu realm. He's a 7th rank 6th realm medical cultivator. How many spirit stones? It records his 130 years of medical experience. Xue Qingxian sucked in a breath of cold air. 7,000 Xian spirit stones. A 7th rank medical cultivator with 130 years of medical experience. 7,000 Xian spirit stones was a very reasonable price. Okay, Meng Qi nodded, then turned to Ji Wujiang and said, 7,000 Xian spirit stones, sell it to me. I'm not selling. Ji Wujiang said. I want to pass it on to my disciple. I'm not selling. Ji Wujiang. Xikong Xing waved her hand, and the little red fox's primordial spirit appeared by her side again. She stomped her feet. Don't force us to make a move. Heh. Ji Wujiang looked askance at her. Little red fox girl. Even if you bring 10 little red foxes with you, you won't be a match for me. Did your master accept you as his disciple? When he accepted you as his disciple, didn't he pass on his Black Tortoise clan's specialty to you? What? Xikong Xing was stunned for a moment, then she suddenly reacted. The Black Tortoise clan was famous for their longevity. In addition, they had a thick shell and didn't like to participate in the conflicts of the demon world. Therefore, there would occasionally be heavenly demons who would mock them behind their backs. They were the most cowardly heavenly demon royal clan. They didn't have any other abilities, but their survival skills were the best in the world. However, the Black Tortoise clan was a heavenly demon royal clan after all. Only demon cultivators would dare to whisper these words behind their backs. Ji Wujiang was the first person to openly mock a Black Tortoise successor in front of him. Ji Wujiang. Meng Qi stretched out her hand and placed it on Xikong Xing's shoulder. Other than becoming his disciple, tell me, what will it take for you to be willing to give me this bamboo slip? Ji Wujiang chuckled. I knew you wouldn't agree. Fine. He nodded. I can choose not to choose this bamboo slip. Oh. Meng Qi was somewhat surprised. What's the condition? Meng Qi knows me best. Ji Wujiang curled his lips and said lazily. The condition is, his body flashed and suddenly stood beside Meng Qi. He bent down slightly and whispered in her ear, Heavenly demons all have essence souls. Have you seen the essence soul of the person who taught you the Dharma array? Meng Qi was stunned. Ji Wujiang continued. Let him summon his essence soul for you to see once, and I won't choose this bamboo slip. How about it? Chapter 120. Meng Qi's heart skipped a beat. She had previously wondered if Yin Qingyan's primordial spirit would look like little Qi's. However, this thought flashed through her mind. Now that Ji Wujiang mentioned it again, she thought of little Qi's clear blue eyes, her cute appearance, and her semicircular fluffy little ears. Meng Qi's hand, which was hanging by her side, slightly bent her fingers. Ji Wujiang raised the corners of his lips, and there was a hint of mockery in his eyes. That mockery flashed through his eyes, and when he spoke again, his tone became much more serious. What do you think? Aren't you curious? Besides, if I don't compete with you for this bamboo slip, no one else will compete with you for it, right? No. Meng Qi shook her head. I can't involve others, she said firmly. I can't do this. Meng Qi frowned slightly and hesitated for a moment. Just as she was about to hand the bamboo slip to Ji Wujiang, a hand suddenly reached out from the side and gently held her wrist. Wait a moment. Qin Xiuma nodded at Mengqi. Ji Wujiang's expression suddenly darkened, and he looked coldly at Qin Xiuma. He didn't like everyone here, so he naturally didn't have a good attitude toward Qin Xiuma. Mengqi, Qin Xiuma said. Before entering the Starfall Sea, we discussed the distribution of the spoils of war. I also mentioned it to you when we encountered the snow-toothed bees. You won't object, right? No. Mengqi shook her head. In that case, Qin Xiuma said lightly, we should follow our rules. He paused and continued. Xing and Mengqi contributed the most to killing the snakes this time. The tribulation cloud of Xing's ascension to the spirit-severing stage was the main force to kill the snakes. As for the Mengqi's array, not only did it help Xing successfully transcend the tribulation, it also allowed the tribulation clouds to help us kill the snakes. Yes. Xing's eyes lit up. Without the Mengqi, I wouldn't have been able to successfully transcend the tribulation, let alone deal with the group of snakes that had transformed into dragons. She said, that group of snakes has already transformed into dragons. The 2 golden-scaled snakes in charge of the transformation are already at the 6th stage. They are equivalent to insightful emptiness realm cultivators. As she spoke, she raised her delicate chin and looked at Ji Wujiang. Even if you are an insightful emptiness realm expert, this golden-scaled snake is very cunning. You might not be able to deal with it easily. Most exotic beasts' bags are destroyed before they die. If this golden-scaled snake hadn't died so suddenly, it wouldn't have left its bag for us to search. That's right. Qin Xiuma said. The ones who killed the snakes were Mengqi and Xing. We were the ones who helped them from the sidelines. You commanded the snow wolves to stall the snakes for us and bought us some time. You were able to let Mengqi and Xing launch such an attack. In addition, you found the bag and took it out. Therefore, the 3 of you have the same credit. He paused for a moment and continued. According to the team rules, the 3 of you can take 1 item first. You can take 1 more item if you found it. However, no matter where the team rules are in the 3 realms, the 5th stage items obtained will be distributed according to individual needs first. Ji Wujiang sneered and didn't say anything. Therefore Mengqi, Qin Xiuma turned to look at Mengqi. You Xing and Ji Wujiang can choose 4 5th stage items first. If you want, you can naturally choose this bamboo slip, right? Yes. Mengqi nodded. She understood. In fact, Qin Xiuma's distribution method was no different from what she said before. It was just that the items were distributed according to individual needs. She really didn't think of this. Mengqi didn't have many opportunities to do this with other people in the past. The one who worked together the most and spent the longest time in the team was probably Yun Qingyan. Yun Qingyan didn't care about this kind of detail, and Mengqi didn't care about it either. No one mentioned it to her at all. Qin Xiuma took the bag from her hand. Let me take a look first. As he spoke, he quickly checked the items in the bag of the golden-scaled snake. There are also 2 jade slips. Each of them has a magic formula. The content of the magic formula is unknown. I'm afraid I'll have to wait until we leave the Starfall Sea and go to the sky beyond heaven to ask someone to identify it. These 4 magic treasures. Well, one of them can be used by magic cultivators, and the other can be used by medical cultivators. They should also belong to this Dongshu medical cultivator. The other 2 are defensive and life-saving treasures. However, they are damaged and need to be repaired before they can be used. Of the 2 long swords, one doesn't have any spiritual aura, and the other only has half of it left. In addition, these heavenly treasures are rare treasures in the 3,000 worlds. After Qin Xiuma finished speaking, he said, Mengqi, Xing and Ji Wujiang first. I choose the bamboo slips, Mengqi said. Okay. Qin Xiuma nodded. Xing didn't know how to choose, and those magic treasures weren't very useful for demon cultivators. In the end, Su Junmo chose a heavenly treasure for her, which could help her cultivate. Ji Wujiang took the 2 jade slips, casually tossed them in his hand, and threw them into his storage bag. Su Zijuan and Qin Xiuma each took a sword. After all, They were the only two-sword cultivators here. Xue Chengxian took the magic treasure that could be used by medical cultivators, and Li Che took the defensive magic treasure. The remaining items were still left with Qin Xiaoma. They would be divided equally after leaving the Starfall Sea. Qin Xiaoma put away the remaining items in the bag, including the corpse of the golden-scaled snake. There were still a lot of corpses left behind by the snakes. When they were dividing the items, Meng Qi drew the 100 Ghosts 100 Charm formation, and threw 3 Xian Spirit Stones into it. Tens of thousands of ghostly shadows rushed out of the formation, and within the time it took for half an incense stick to burn, all the gallbladders were retrieved. Meng Qi collected a whole box of snake gallbladders. Although these snake gallbladders couldn't be compared to the golden-scaled snake, they were still the gallbladders of the snakes in the Starfall Sea and were quite useful. She also handed the box of snake gallbladders to Qin Xiaoma. They would be divided equally after leaving this place. Ji Wujiang was so angry that he almost laughed. Meng Qi used his 100 Ghosts 100 Charm formation too smoothly, but what could he say? He didn't teach her. She just watched him use it once and learned it on her own. This was allowed in the 3 realms. It wasn't called stealing. This was a rule set by the ancient powerhouses tens of thousands of years ago. It was probably to ensure that the inheritance wouldn't be easily cut off, and would continue to grow. But then again, who would have thought that Meng Qi could learn a formation like the 100 Ghosts 100 Charm formation, just by watching from afar? Ji Wujiang looked at the small ghosts running all over the ground. He was really angry and amused. He couldn't help but curse in his heart. Why didn't he meet Meng Qi, such a good and beautiful talent, earlier? She was simply the best candidate to pass on an inheritance to him. After finishing all this, Su Junmo and the others had almost recovered to their peak state. Let's go. After Qin Xiaoma distributed the spoils of war, although Ji Wujiang, an insightful emptiness realm cultivator, was added to the team, he naturally became the team leader again. Zaya Gap. Come okay. Meng Qi nodded. At this time, the sky was getting brighter and brighter. The signal flare didn't appear again. Don't worry. Xue Qingxian seemed to have guessed Meng Qi's thoughts. My sister is fine for now. Okay. Meng Qi nodded. The group continued to rush toward the place where Xue Jinwen had sent out the distress signal earlier. But for some reason, Meng Qi and the others didn't encounter any danger after walking for almost an hour in the Starfall Sea, which was full of dangers just now. It was as if all the strange beasts and ferocious beasts within a radius of dozens of miles had all retreated. Meng Qi and the others didn't dare to relax. Qin Xiaoma and Qin Xiaoma's natal longswords were still in the air. Xing stabilized her realm and waved her hand. A stream of black water instantly sank into the ground, faster than before. It's really amazing. Everyone rushed forward. Xing said. It's actually true. She couldn't help but look around. It seems like all the strange beasts and ferocious beasts around us have been slaughtered. Ji Wujiang had even put away his black narrow saber. He heard this and chuckled. The heavenly demon royal star formation was activated, and the king's aura was unparalleled. Those ferocious beasts didn't dare to go directly against it. Moreover, one of the golden-scaled snakes had escaped and died. After all, this was only the edge of the Starfall Sea. It was also a kind of deterrent to those ferocious beasts. If they dared to come back immediately, they wouldn't be able to survive in the Starfall Sea for so long. Meng Qi replied softly, yes. Her mind was still filled with the image of the small and cute red fox cub in Xing's palm. All demon cultivators had essence souls. She really wanted to see Qing Yan's Henjun's essence soul. She sighed softly in her heart. She knew that this matter was very difficult. Meng Qi couldn't help but look up at the sky. She didn't know what Qing Yan's Henjun was doing on the other side of the heavenly observation mirror. Yin Qingyan always appeared when she was in danger, but she couldn't talk to her whenever she wanted to. She didn't know if this was a spell or something. It would be great if she could learn it. Meng Qi thought as she rushed forward with the team. A quarter of an hour later, the group stopped outside a deep forest. This is the place where the signal fireworks lit up. Meng Qi looked into the forest. The trees were tall and blocked the sky and starlight. The forest was deep and dark. It was impossible to see too far. Let me check it out first. Si Kongxing pursed her lips and formed a hand seal with her right hand. The black water hidden on the ground rushed forward with incredible speed. Ah! In the blink of an eye, she suddenly exclaimed in surprise. It disappeared. She turned to look at everyone. I couldn't control them after they rushed half a mile into the forest. Meng Qi and the others were stunned. Their expressions became more and more serious. Qin Xiaoma took a step forward and pulled out a long sword from his storage bag. He pointed his finger, and the long sword suddenly flew into the forest. The blade of the sword whistled and cut through the dark and unclear air in the forest. Meng Qi and the others only saw a flash of cold light. The whistling of the sword stopped abruptly and disappeared along with the cold light. They hurriedly turned to look at Qin Xiaoma. How was it? Qin Xiaoma shook his head. Chu Tianfeng raised his hand. A small cluster of flames ignited in his palm. Go! He shouted softly. The flame quickly floated into the forest. The flame just lit up a few big trees on the edge of the forest. In the blink of an eye, it turned into smoke and dissipated in the air. This. Chu Tianfeng stared blankly at the disappearing flame. I felt that the spiritual energy in the flame was suddenly sucked out, so the flame disappeared directly. Meng Qi frowned slightly. In that case, Si Kongxing's black water and Qin Xiaoma's long sword were the same. What is this place? Chu Tianfeng murmured again. The Starfall Sea recorded in the ancient books in my family has never mentioned such a place. Xue Qingxian and the others also shook their heads. They had never heard of a place where the spiritual energy in a spell could be sucked out, and a long sword could disappear in an instant. What everyone was more worried about was how to fight in such a place. Su Junmo's expression was serious. He stepped forward, bent down and picked up a stone. The stone rolled into the forest. This time, everyone saw clearly that as soon as the stone rolled into the forest, it instantly turned into a pile of powder. A gust of wind blew, stirring up fine dust. It was as if the stone had never been there. There's no grass here at all, Meng Qi said. They looked as far as they could see. There were no other living things in the place except for the towering trees. The ground was bare, and they didn't see any grass or other living things. This place. Li Che raised his head slightly and looked at the treetops. Isn't it a bit too quiet? There was a gust of wind just now, and the leaves were also moving, but there wasn't even a rustling sound. When Qin Xiaoma's long sword flew into the forest, there was a sound, Meng Qi said. So, Su Junmo continued. Can the spiritual energy be broken? Qin Xiaoma's long sword flew farther than Chu Tianfeng's because his cultivation level was above Chu Tianfeng's. Qin Xiaoma was in the 7th stage of the nascent soul realm, while Chu Tianfeng had just entered the nascent soul realm. Oh. Meng Qi said, then I'll try. She had the lowest cultivation level in the entire team. Meng Qi thought for a moment, then waved her hand, and a spot of light flew into the forest. A 6th stage spirit stone. Chu Tianfeng murmured. He realized that Meng Qi was simply a big spender of spirit stones now. Formations required spirit stones, and she often used Xian spirit stones, 8th stage and 9th stage spirit stones. Now she also used spirit stones to explore. Chu Tianfeng's Adam's apple bobbed up and down. He didn't know if she had enough spirit stones. As soon as the 6th stage spirit stone entered the forest, it became dimmer and dimmer. However, it flew farther than Qin Xiaoma's long sword before it turned into a pile of powder and dissipated in the air. This was normal. After all, a 6th stage spirit stone was equivalent to the spiritual energy in the entire spiritual sea of a cultivator, who had just entered the insightful emptiness realm. However, this also showed that the deeper they went into the forest, the greater the power of extracting spiritual energy. This was because a 6th stage spirit stone only flew 400 to 500 feet further than Qin Xiaoma's long sword. Meng Qi turned to Ji Wujiang. Ji Wujiang, do you know this place? Ji Wujiang still owed her a lot of spirit stones, and he was hired by her. No, Ji Wujiang said, but, as he spoke he turned to glance at Su Junmo. Legend has it that there's a place in the demon realm where even insightful emptiness realm cultivators will be quickly sucked dry of all their spiritual energy. They won't be able to use spells or magic weapons, and they'll be no different from ordinary people. Yes, Su Junmo's gaze turned cold, and her expression became serious. How do you know? Ji Wujiang sneered. You don't need to know how I know. Legend has it that 10,000 years ago, the demon realm once sent a team of demonic cultivators whose weakest cultivation was at the insightful emptiness realm to infiltrate the demon realm. When they were discovered, the team had already successfully assassinated the clan leader and 2 elders of a heavenly demon clan. The entire clan was in a mess and was about to be slaughtered by the demonic cultivator team. Later, the remaining 3 elders of the clan risked their lives to lure them into that place. The entire team, including the 3 elders, never came out again. I've also heard about it, Xing said. Later, the demon lord at that time was furious and personally came. He sent his demon lord shadow guards to enter that place, and finally found the 3 elders of the clan who had returned to their original forms. Their spiritual energy had been completely sucked dry, and the entire team of demonic cultivators were also found. She paused, and a trace of fear suddenly appeared in her eyes. I know. It's Jimu Valley. Xing's body swayed slightly, and she murmured. Jimu Valley is a forbidden area in the demon realm, just like the Starfall Sea. No one knows what's inside, but as long as one enters it, all the spiritual energy in one's body will be quickly sucked dry. She couldn't help but shudder when she said this. This was a place that the elders of the demon realm would use to intimidate the younger generation. Whether it was Xing or Su Junmo, they both grew up listening to such legends. Meng Qi's heart skipped a beat, and she looked up at Su Junmo. The other party just happened to turn his head and look at her. Meng Qi pursed her lips. If it was Jimu Valley, she had heard of it before. It was just that she didn't hear it from Su Junmo, but from Yin Qingyan. The 2 words Jimu were already very clear. Once one reached there, they couldn't continue forward and should return. It was just that Meng Qi didn't know that this Jimu Valley was actually in the demon realm. But this place, Xing murmured. Is it really Jimu Valley? In addition to the fact that it would also drain spiritual energy, they didn't know if this place was the same as the legendary Jimu Valley in the demon realm. Oh. Xing suddenly opened her eyes wide. If Sister Shui is really here, then she. At this point, she suddenly shut her mouth and turned to look at Meng Qi nervously. If the signal fireworks really came from here, then Shui Jinwen was probably already. No. Shui Chengxian shook his head with certainty. 3rd sister is still alive. The Shui family had their own way of contacting each other. If Shui Jinwen was already dead, he would definitely know. He looked into the depths of the dense forest. It was empty inside, as if everything would lose their vitality if they came here. Although Shui Chengxian spoke with certainty, he still felt a little uneasy. Shui Jinwen's cultivation was far below his, and she was the lowest among his 3 sisters. If this place was really as terrifying as the Jimu Valley that Su Junmo and the others said, even insightful emptiness stage powerhouses would die inside. Then 3rd sister. She was probably already dead. Should they still go in? Meng Qi took a deep breath and frowned. She took out a signal firework from her storage bag and flicked it into the sky. The firework exploded in the sky. At this time, the sky was bright, and it wasn't particularly conspicuous. A moment later, in the middle of the forest, a similar signal firework rose into the sky and exploded in the air, as if it was responding to Meng Qi. Meng Qi exhaled. Sister Shui is in the forest. They were close enough to see that the firework was indeed rising in the forest. Moreover, it should be in the middle of the forest. At this moment, a long sword suddenly flew up. The cold light cut through the sky like the most dazzling shooting star. It's the pavilion master. Su Zijuan pointed in the direction of the rising sword and said, It's the pavilion master. He's there too. Pei Mufeng was there too. It seemed that what Su Zijuan had seen before was his sword light. So he had found Shui Jinwen here. And then both of them had entered the forest? Or was Shui Jinwen already in the forest when he arrived, and he went to find her? Then there must be a way to get in, Meng Qi said with certainty. Yes. Shui Chengxian nodded. Since 3rd sister can safely enter the depths of the forest, we can definitely go in as well. Let's try the sky. Qin Xiaoma took out another long sword from his storage bag. He seemed to have brought many of these long swords with him in case of emergency. As he spoke, he raised his hand and threw out the long sword. The long sword flew into the sky above the forest. The cold light flashed slightly, and like its companion, it quickly turned into a pile of powder, and was blown away by the wind. It seems, Su Junmo muttered. Even the sky won't work. Let's go around the forest and take a look. Mengqi thought for a moment and said, this forest doesn't look very big. Maybe there's another way to get in. Mengqi. Ji Wujiang, who had been silent since the mention of Jifan Valley, sneered. If such a place really exists, do you think Pei Mufeng will obediently stay in the forest? He's not that girl from the Shui family. He's the pavilion master of the Falling Star Pavilion. I'm afraid he'll be the #1 sword cultivator in the Eastland in the future. He's ruthless. Mengqi, she nodded. Ji Wujiang's words made sense. Mengqi turned to Ji Wujiang. Then do you have a way? They were all hired by her anyway. It would be a waste not to use them. I do have a way. Ji Wujiang said lazily. Mengqi. She knew it. Mengqi thought for a moment and said, name your conditions. Without waiting for Ji Wujiang to speak, she quickly added, it's impossible to become his disciple. When the people around heard this, they couldn't help but look at Ji Wujiang, especially Chu Tianfeng and the others. They had witnessed the last time Mengqi and Ji Wujiang were together in the barrier of the competition. Su Junmo even suspected that Ji Wujiang had fallen in love with Mengqi. After all, if he were to put himself in Mengqi's shoes, it would be too easy for him to be moved by the girl who refused to leave him and wanted to stay with him through life and death. But later, everyone found out that Ji Wujiang only wanted to accept Mengqi as his disciple. This was simply an ill-fated relationship. They didn't know what to say. This time in the Starfall Sea, they saw with their own eyes and heard with their own ears that one of them wanted Mengqi to become his disciple, while the other refused to become his disciple no matter what. Although Su Junmo and the others didn't say anything, they were also amazed by what they saw. Seeing this scene, they were even mentally prepared that Ji Wujiang would find a way to force Mengqi to become his disciple again. Okay, if you don't want to become my disciple, then so be it. Unexpectedly, Ji Wujiang nodded readily, as if he had already guessed that Mengqi would say this. He said generously, I know a little about Jifan Valley, and I can tell you all about it. What are your conditions? Mengqi asked. After leaving the Starfall Sea, you have to accompany me to a place, Ji Wujiang said. Without waiting for Mengqi to answer, he quickly added, the direction, it's not dangerous there, and it's in the western realm of the 3,000 worlds. I promise that I won't hurt you at all. Okay. Mengqi nodded without hesitation. Ji Wujiang raised the corner of his lips and pulled out his dark narrow saber. Jifan Valley is in the third heaven of the demon realm. Su Junmo and Si Kongxing heard this, and their expressions changed slightly, as if they wanted to say something. However, the two looked at each other and didn't say anything in the end. As Ji Wujiang spoke, he quickly drew a map of the valley's terrain on the ground. There is only one entrance to Jifan Valley. Even if it's Dongjin, that's the 8th stage demon cultivator we're talking about, if he enters this place, his spiritual energy will be sucked dry, such as the 3 elders of the heavenly demon aristocrat. Mengqi nodded. Ji Wujiang chuckled, raised his eyes and looked deeply at Mengqi, and continued. Tens of thousands of years ago, the heavenly demon White Tiger clan had already lived in this 5th heaven. It's just that at that time, the White Tiger clan hadn't held the Demon Lord token for a long time. When this happened, the Demon Lord changed quite frequently. At that time, the Demon Lord happened to be the clan leader of the Heavenly Demon Phoenix clan. Mengqi's heart moved slightly and she nodded. The White Tiger clan can be considered to be unhindered in the demon realm, and they have produced great geniuses for several generations. For example, the current Demon Lord was also a famous genius of the Heavenly Demon White Tiger clan when he was young. As Ji Wujiang spoke, he looked at Mengqi without blinking. The green-robed girl's expression was still indifferent, and she just nodded calmly. Didn't she know? Countless thoughts flashed through Ji Wujiang's mind. He looked at Meng Qi's calm little face and her pair of clear eyes that didn't change from beginning to end. Cough cough. Ji Wujiang coughed a few times. The current demon lord should also be alive. He clasped his hands and counted. It's been 900 years, right? Meng Qi, it's probably your grandfather's grandfather's age. Meng Qi looked up at him and looked at him inexplicably. When a cultivator reaches the spirit severing stage, their lifespan is 300 years, insightful 700 years, insightful 1,000 years, and Mahayana 1,000 years. That's not right. That's still almost 900 years older than you, Ji Wujiang said with certainty. Meng Qi nodded. That's right. The demon lord doesn't have a Taoist companion, but I heard that there are countless beauties in the demon realm. In the past 900 years, he also naturally has many beauties in his arms and has countless lovers, Ji Wujiang continued. Ji Wujiang. Meng Qi frowned. Get to the point. Chapter 121. Ji Wujiang. Meng Qi frowned. Get to the point. She looked into the depths of the forest. Xue Jinwen and Pei Mufeng were trapped inside, and were probably waiting for them to rescue them. At this time, she was not in the mood to listen to Ji Wujiang talk about the so-called Yao Lord. Su Junmo, who was standing to the side, opened his mouth and was about to refute. Seeing Meng Qi interrupt Ji Wujiang first, he closed his mouth and smiled. In the end, he did not say anything. Ji Wujiang sneered. Holding his black narrow saber, he continued to draw on the ground. Do you know that there is a saying in the three realms? What? Meng Qi frowned slightly and asked. Some places can only be broken through by force. Ji Wujiang said slowly. There are countless cultivators in the three realms, and there are many experts. Some places are dangerous, but there is no room for tricks. You can only break through by force. Or, he paused and said, you can trade a life for a life. No one said anything. They looked up at the forest. So it was the same here? They could only use their powerful cultivation to crush them. Or, trade a life for a life? How did Sister Xue and the others get in? Meng Qi asked. Meng Qi, have you ever seen a hunter's trap? Ji Wujiang did not directly answer her question. Instead, he said, if you want the prey to fall into the trap, you need some bait. You're saying that Sister Xue and Pavilion Master Pei are bait? Meng Qi asked. She frowned. This is the Starfall Sea. If we don't come here, what's the point of using Sister Xue as bait? Ji Wujiang turned to Xue Qingxian. Do you have something on you that can communicate with her? Yes. Xue Qingxian nodded. As he spoke, he took out an inconspicuous green stone from his storage bag. The stone was about the size of a knuckle, and a black string ran through the pendant on top of the stone. This is the life stone that all the direct descendants of the Xue family have. If there are any clansmen within 1,000 miles, they can sense each other. So that was the case. Meng Qi looked at the green stone and then at Xue Qingxian. No wonder he was so sure that Xue Jinwen was still alive. The Wind Alliance's Xue family was an ancient family that had existed for nearly 10,000 years. Their foundation was indeed incomparable to ordinary sections. No wrong novel network. Meng Qi had seen records of life stones in books. He could still find some in the three realms, but they were extremely rare. So, Ji Wujiang said lazily, after capturing Xue Jinwen in the forest, I realized that there was someone in the Sea of Fallen Stars who could communicate with her from a distance. Naturally, I wanted to try and see if I could lure more prey. What exactly is Jigu Valley? Meng Qi asked. Ji Wujiang rambled on for a long time, but he still couldn't clearly explain the use of the Valley of Remembrance. However, it had something to do with the White Tiger clan. Meng Qi's heart skipped a beat. Was it also related to Yun Qingyan? He was perfected Lord White Tiger. He should know about these secret places of the clan. I don't know about that. That's a secret place of the White Tiger clan. How could outsiders know about it? Ji Wujiang said. Meng Qi. But you just said that you had a way. Si Kongxing reached out and scratched his face twice. You still have the nerve to ask Meng Qi for a condition. Heh. Ji Wujiang chuckled. Although I don't know what's in Jigu Valley, I know how to get in. What happens after you get in? Si Kongxing asked. Is there a way to get out? That depends on. Ji Wujiang's eyes were deep as the corners of his lips curled up into a half-smile. Is it willing to let you out again? It. Meng Qi quickly asked, who is it? Ji Wujiang spread his hands. I'm just guessing. Since it can use Xue Jinwen as bait to lure us here, it naturally has a divine sense. Oh. Meng Qi nodded. I don't know how Sister Xue is doing inside, Si Kongxing murmured. There's no way to contact her at all. Su Zijuan. She looked at Pei Mufeng's fellow disciples. Do you have a way to contact your pavilion master? Su Zijuan shook his head. The Falling Star Pavilion has a communication spell. I've already tried it just now. I can't send spirit energy into it. There's no way to contact the pavilion master. For a moment everyone fell silent. Ji Wujiang. Meng Qi asked, tell me how to get in first. I can draw an array on a person's body. There are enough spirit stones in the demon beast's bag just now. Ji Wujiang said, we can take the risk and enter. Then can't we use the same method to get out? Si Kongxing quickly asked. Legend has it that the demonic cultivators who died in Zigui Valley back then were at least in the insightful void realm. Ji Wujiang said, if I can think of this method, these demonic cultivators can also think of it. Moreover, the demon cultivator elders who lured them into Zigui Valley were also cultivators at the insightful void realm. None of them walked out of Zigui Valley alive. I have a question. Meng Qi raised his hand. You just said that the demon lord arrived later and sent people to find the corpses of the demon cultivator elders in Zigui Valley. I think these people also came out alive. Otherwise, there wouldn't be anything else. How did they do it? Oh, good question. Ji Wujiang nodded. Because they had the demon lord's token. Su Junmo. Si Kongxing. Meng Qi. The demon lord's token intimidates the demon realm. This time Ji Wujiang didn't speak. Instead, it was Su Junmo who said, there is no place in the demon realm that you can't go. Except for the will of the demon realm, all laws bow to it. Yes. Meng Qi nodded. This was very difficult. She frowned slightly and looked at the dark forest. Xue Jinwen and Pei Mufeng were both inside. They couldn't just give up like this. However, if they really risked their lives to enter such a dangerous place, it was hard to predict whether they would live or die. Even if they were willing to exchange their lives for Xue Jinwen's and Pei Mufeng's lives, could they? What do you think? Ji Wujiang said. Do you want to try? Meng Qi frowned and hesitated, but didn't say anything. Meng Qi. Ji Wujiang's eyes flashed with a smile. No matter who goes in, it's very dangerous. The most important thing is that even if you're willing to take the risk, it's not necessarily meaningful. It's very likely that you won't be able to save them at all. You might even lose your own life. What do you think? He had always been sharp, so he could always hit the nail on the head and poke at the other party's sore spot. So, Ji Wujiang said, anyway, the two in the forest have nothing to do with us. If a pavilion master of the Falling Star Pavilion dies, there will naturally be a second pavilion master. Here, there's a young man whose swordsmanship is just so, barely passable. As for the Xue family, he smiled. If Xue Chengxian dies to save his sister, Xue Jinwen will be despised by the family even if she survives. Anyway, she has already left the Xue family. The Xue family doesn't lack a daughter who has already left the family. Ji Wujiang clapped his hands. Since everyone knows that this forest is dangerous, let's just pretend that we never came here. Anyway, other than the few of you, no one else knows. Although this is the edge of the Starfall Sea, it is still the Starfall Sea. In the three realms, there is no hierarchy in the Starfall Sea. Survival is the most important. No one will blame us for leaving them in the lurch. He looked at the side of Meng Qi's face. He deliberately emphasized the words, leaving them in the lurch, as if he was saying it for her to hear. Ji Wujiang was very sharp. Although his words were slightly sarcastic, they were not without reason. Everyone became even more silent. Even Si Kongxing, who was always lively and generous, shut her mouth obediently. If we can save them, of course we will. If we can't, we might lose our lives. Ji Wujiang waited for a moment and said, Indeed, there is no need to put ourselves in danger, right? He turned to look at Xue Qingxian. This is not considered leaving them in the lurch. After all, we haven't seen them, right? This was the second time he mentioned the words, leaving them in the lurch. Every time he mentioned it, he would deliberately emphasize it. Ji Wujiang knew very well that if he wanted Meng Qi to be his disciple, besides the master who stood between the two of them, the most important thing was that Meng Qi was a medical cultivator. Moreover, she liked being a medical cultivator very much. If he wanted Meng Qi to change, he first had to make her give up her medical cultivation. He and Meng Qi had fought side by side in the barrier of the competition, so he knew her persistence. He had also seen how she was so focused on saving people. Just now, he watched coldly as Meng Qi, Li Che, and the others bowed to the bamboo slip. He knew even more clearly that these guys had their own persistence. So Ji Wujiang's eyes dimmed. If he wanted Meng Qi to change to a formation cultivator, he had to make her unable to be a medical cultivator. Although it was a little cruel, he would make it up to her. Ji Wujiang deliberately used the phrase, leaving them in the lurch, twice because he wanted to break Meng Qi's bottom line bit by bit. Once the bottom line was broken, people were often vulnerable and at a loss. Then his opportunity had come. However, going too far was as bad as not going far enough. It was better to do it step by step. Ji Wujiang stopped talking and returned the right to make the final decision to Meng Qi. He could slightly push this kind of cultivation choice, but he could not do it himself. Moreover, this time, even if Meng Qi chose not to enter the forest, regardless of the life and death of Xue Jinwen and Pei Mufeng, it had nothing to do with her medical cultivation principles. Ji Wujiang was also clear in his heart. That was why he deliberately used the phrase, leaving them in the lurch. Not only that, but he also knew that this matter should not be decided by Meng Qi. After all, Xue Jinwen was a member of the Xue family, and Pei Mufeng was the pavilion master of the Falling Star Pavilion. Xue Chengxian and Pei Mufeng's junior brother were here. Even if they were close to each other, it was not up to Meng Qi to decide whether to save them or not. However, he wanted to push this matter to Meng Qi. Then Meng Qi, Chu Tianfeng suddenly spoke, interrupting Ji Wujiang's thoughts. Just as he was about to speak, Qin Xiaoma suddenly grabbed his arm and shook his head gently at him. Chu Tianfeng turned to look at him in surprise. The black-robed man looked solemn, and he could not understand his gaze. Qin Xiaoma stepped forward and said in a deep voice, Since we are already here, and Xue Jinwen and Pei Mufeng are in the forest. He looked around and continued, the third miss of the Xue family, the pavilion master of the Falling Star Pavilion. Fellow Daoist Xue, fellow Daoist Su, what are your plans? F***CK. Ji Wujiang was instantly enraged. This guy was going to ruin his plan. Su Zijuan said without hesitation. I want to enter the forest and save senior brother. Fellow Daoist Xue. Qin Xiaoma turned to Xue Qingxian and urged, What about you? If there is a chance, I naturally want to save my sister. Xue Qingxian said slowly. Then, Qin Xiaoma said decisively, This place is dangerous. Let's vote. He glanced coldly at Ji Wujiang, and there was a turbulent undercurrent in the depths of his eyes. Two handsome youths dressed in black robes stood there, looking at each other. They could see the coldness in each other's eyes, as if they were in the depths of winter. Before voting, there is one thing I want to make clear. Qin Xiaoma continued. The Falling Star Sea is dangerous. If any of us leaves the team, without the cooperation of our teammates, it is almost impossible to walk out of the Falling Star Sea alive. Therefore, after the voting results are out, no matter whether you decide to enter the forest or leave, please abide by the final result of the voting. Don't act alone. After all, we can only survive if we stay together. After Qin Xiaoma finished speaking, he looked around and asked, Do you have any objections? Everyone gently shook their heads. Xue Qingxian glanced at him a few more times. Ever since they entered the Falling Star Sea, this black-robed young man had experienced several small-scale battles and gradually became the leader of the team. He was decisive in killing. Although he usually didn't talk much, he indeed had the ability to lead. Qin Xiaoma glanced coldly at Ji Wujiang again. Then he said to Su Zijuan, Su Zijuan, if the final result is not to enter the forest, are you willing to follow? Su Zijuan clenched his teeth and nodded heavily. Okay. Then. Qin Xiaoma didn't ask Xue Qingxian the same question. Instead, he raised his hand and sent several empty bamboo slips into everyone's hands. Let's vote. The bamboo slips could be written with spirit energy. There was no need to leave one's name or mark. Everyone could follow their hearts. This was the fairest method. After all, entering the forest might mean death. Moreover, the two people they were going to save were not close to them. This stinking brat ruined his plans. Ji Wujiang instantly understood why Qin Xiaoma did this. Compared to the young Burning Sky Palace young palace master, this guy was clearly young, but his methods and schemes were beyond his imagination. He was quite decisive in his actions. Ji Wujiang and Qin Xiaoma looked at each other just now. He knew that the other party had seen through his intentions. He snorted coldly. He didn't even give him the bamboo slips to vote. He was completely treating him as an enemy. Si Kongxing finished writing first. Ji Wujiang doesn't have any bamboo slips? Oh, Qin Xiaoma said faintly. He was hired by Mengqi. He doesn't need to vote. Ji Wujiang. He looked at Qin Xiaoma with a gloomy expression. He was a bit regretful that he showed mercy the first time they met. This guy, he should have been ruthless back then and made him lie in bed for half a year or a year. Oh. Si Kongxing didn't think much and threw his bamboo slips forward. The bamboo slips hung motionlessly in midair. Soon everyone finished writing their bamboo slips. 8 bamboo slips hung in the air. Qin Xiaoma flicked his sleeve, and the 8 bamboo slips rotated in a crisscross pattern. This way, no one would know who the bamboo slips belonged to unless they deliberately left their own divine sense mark on the bamboo slips. Qin Xiaoma flicked his sleeve again, and the 8 bamboo slips lit up at the same time. The spiritual aura radiated, and a few words slowly floated on the bamboo slips. Enter, enter, enter. 7 consecutive enter characters floated in the air. Finally, there was a leave character. No one asked who wrote the leave character. Su Zijuan couldn't help but secretly sigh in relief. He had a very good relationship with his senior brother, and he wasn't afraid of death. Moreover, if he knew that his senior brother was in the forest and left without a care, he was very worried that his Dao heart would be damaged, and his Dao would be damaged from then on. Ji Wujiang snorted softly, and turned his head to look to the side. In that case, Qin Xiaoma said decisively, let's rest first and adjust the medicinal pills and magic weapons. Mengqi, Li Che, Xue Qingxian, can the 3 of you refine some medicinal pills now? Mengqi and the others quickly nodded. We need some antidotes that can help us avoid the miasma, Qin Xiaoma said, and medicinal pills that can instantly save our lives. After 2 hours, we'll enter the forest. Now everyone should rest. He paused and said, fellow Taoists who have defensive magic weapons, please take them out first. We may need to redistribute them. Okay. Everyone agreed. The traces of thousands of beasts outside the forest were cut off, so it was quite safe. Mengqi raised his hand, and the 5-spirit cauldron floated beside him. Li Che did the same. He summoned his natal cauldron. Ji Wujiang's natal magic weapon was a silver needle, and his cauldron was also a strange object. It wouldn't lose to Li Che. Qin Xiaoma knew that refining medicinal pills was the 3 medical cultivators' specialty, and he couldn't help, so he didn't ask anymore. Let's exchange the medicinal herbs we brought, Xue Qingxian said, and then distribute them. By the way, Mengqi, what grade are you in? 4th grade Great Perfection, Mengqi said. Li Che was shocked. You're only a golden core cultivator, but your medical skills are already at the 4th grade Great Perfection? Yes. Mengqi nodded. Li Che scratched his head embarrassedly. I'm only at the 5th grade 4th realm, Xue Qingxian said. I'm at the 6th grade 1st realm. Amazing. Li Che praised from the bottom of his heart. Xue Qingxian was only a few years older than him, but he was worthy of being the eldest son of the Xue family. His medical skills had already reached the 6th grade. Xue Qingxian shook his head. There was nothing to be proud of. The Xue family had its own foundation. Moreover, he had too many chores, so he couldn't fully concentrate on his medical skills. Otherwise, with his talent, if he could ignore the chores of the family and concentrate on his medical skills, he would be at least at the 6th grade 3rd realm. Then let's distribute them. Xue Chengxian said. I'll refine the breeze pill. Li Che, your southern land has a lot of research on miasma, so I'll leave this to you. Mengqi. He glanced at Mengqi. When I saw you earlier, the small red fruit you ate was the phoenix fruit, Mengqi said. Hiss. Li Che couldn't help but gasp. The phoenix fruit. Doesn't that mean we can refine the nirvana pill? The nirvana pill was the real life-saving medicine. Yes. Mengqi said. I only have the phoenix fruit. I have it. Xue Chengxian took out a brocade bag from his storage bag. The rarest part of the nirvana pill is the phoenix fruit. With the phoenix fruit, other herbs are common. I have some here. Okay. Mengqi didn't refuse and took it directly. I want the miasma refining pill. If there's some snake heart grass, the effect will be better. Li Che asked. Do you have it? I have it, Mengqi said. He also took out a brocade bag from his storage bag and handed it to Li Che. Okay. Xue Chengxian nodded. Can you guarantee that everyone will have one nirvana pill? Sure. Mengqi hesitated for a moment before nodding. She had a whole box of phoenix fruits. Everyone here could be guaranteed 20 nirvana pills. However, Yin Qingyan gave it to her. Mengqi couldn't take it all for herself. She thought of Yin Qingyan and the phoenix fruit. She couldn't help but think of the peerless man in snow-white clothes under the phoenix tree. Then let's hurry up, Xue Chengxian said. Mengqi and the other two exchanged the herbs they brought, and then began to prepare for the nirvana pill. Xue Chengxian gave her a lot of herbs. Mengqi thought about it and took out 20 phoenix fruits and threw them into the 5-spirit cauldron. After being refined by Buddhist sand, the 5-spirit cauldron could refine as many nirvana pills as she wanted. Moreover, with the help of the fire formation engraved on the belly of the cauldron, the refining time was much faster. Mengqi threw all the herbs needed for the nirvana pill into the 5-spirit cauldron. She raised her hand and embedded a few 9th-grade spirit stones on the belly of the cauldron. The fire formation was instantly activated. Spirit energy surrounded the entire 5-spirit cauldron. The gallbladder of the golden-scaled snake was given to Xue Chengxian. The breeze pill originally needed a snake gallbladder. The efficacy of the nirvana pill would be at least 2 or 3 times higher. Xue Chengxian looked at his cauldron and the herbs in the cauldron. His heart suddenly moved. When the Xue family first noticed Mengqi, it was the breeze pill that Xue Jingwen brought back from sky beyond sky. The breeze pill had a breeze spell. Although it was only a 2nd-grade pill, this ingenious idea and method made the entire Xue family. No, it made the entire Wind Alliance shocked. However, the elders of the Xue family personally investigated the breeze pill. Even his father, Xue Cheng, an expert who had reached the peak of the 7th grade, and was only 1 step away from reaching the 8th grade, personally investigated the breeze pill. However, no one could tell how the pill was refined. Later, the Dark North pill shocked the medical cultivation sects of the 4 realms. As far as Xue Chengxian knew, almost all the top medical cultivation sects in the 4 realms sent people to sky beyond sky to find the person who refined the pill. Because of Xue Jinwen, the Xue family knew that these 2 pills were refined by a young medical cultivator named Little Qi. Xue Chengxian was in charge of investigating this matter under his father's orders. However, at that time, the decennial medical cultivator assembly was just around the corner. This was more important to them, so they couldn't spend all their energy on searching for Xiaoqi. Who knew Xue Chengxian couldn't help but smile bitterly. The Mengqi who shocked the medical cultivators of the 4 realms during the medical cultivation conference. It turned out to be the Little Qi they had been searching for all this time. If his father knew, Xue Chengxian couldn't help but turn around and look at Mengqi's small and fair face. The green robe outlined her thin body and made her slender waist look even more delicate. Mengqi was actually very good-looking. Although she wasn't the kind of person who would take people's breath away at first glance, She was elegant and beautiful. The more one looked at her, the more attractive she was. She could still understand him and his intentions for letting the Falling Star Pavilion host the medical cultivation conference. She was also carefree and straightforward. She had given away the method to treat the divine devouring vine. She was even more impressive in the array formation. She was pure, serious, persistent, and brave. She could do what she wanted to do, but couldn't do without fear or worry. Actually, Xue Chengxian narrowed his eyes and smiled. Even if it wasn't a request from his family, it would be a good thing if he could become Meng Qi's Dao companion and accompany her side by side. Probably since he gave her the blood moon, he had already. Xue Chengshuan's thoughts were suddenly interrupted. He turned around and saw Xikongxing jumping to Meng Qi's side. She looked at the inconspicuous jade token in her hand in disbelief. This is. Xikongxing's face suddenly turned red, and she started to stammer. She stared at the jade token for a moment, then raised her head and looked at Meng Qi in disbelief. Her big eyes were wide open, and her lips were trembling. Her face was full of surprise, and there was even some fear in her eyes. This, Meng. No. She swallowed her saliva with some difficulty and suddenly took a few steps back. She didn't dare to stand beside Meng Qi anymore. Chapter 122. Xingxing. Meng Qi looked at the jade pendant in his palm. The white jade pendant wasn't particularly exquisite. It was warm to the touch, and there were no words engraved on it, only some simple patterns. Meng Qi didn't have time to look at it carefully after getting it. What's wrong, Xingxing? She was a little confused and looked at her friend who suddenly avoided her. Xikongxing was straightforward and generous. Meng Qi had never seen such an expression on her face except for the first time. Meng Qi. Xikongxing's shoulders trembled, and she swallowed with some difficulty. Her legs were a little weak, and she had already lowered her head, not daring to look directly at the pendant in Meng Qi's hand. As a demon cultivator, Xikongxing, who grew up in the demon realm, seemed to be born with reverence and fear for that thing. Su Junmo happened to walk to her side. She looked back at him, and her eyes flashed. That's the jade pendant in Meng Qi's hand. Is that? Xikongxing seemed to be really scared. She stuttered for a long time, but couldn't say a complete sentence. Do you know this jade pendant? Meng Qi looked at the two and asked in surprise. This was the pendant that Yin Qingyan gave to her. It was the pendant of the Falling Cloud Manor on the Great Desert Island. He also told her that as long as she had this pendant, she could enter the Falling Cloud Manor. When the phoenix fruit ripened 1,000 years later, she could pick it again. 1,000 years later. Meng Qi thought of this agreement, which didn't count as an agreement, and her heart warmed. Qingyan's Henjun really thought highly of her. A cultivator had to cultivate to at least the insightful truth realm, to have a lifespan of 1,000 years. Only then could they go to the Great Desert Island to pick the phoenix fruit again. Meng Qi looked at the white jade pendant in her palm. So she would work hard. If she worked hard, she could fulfill this promise of 1,000 years. Meng Qi calmed down and looked up at the two. Xingxing, what do you think this is? Xikongxing and Su Junmo looked at each other again. Her eyes flickered and she looked like she was about to cry. This. She looked at Su Junmo with pleading eyes. Sob, sob, sob. She didn't dare to say it. She didn't even dare to say that name out loud. Just thinking about it in her mind made her feel a little breathless. However, she didn't dare to not answer the person who held the order. Although the thing in Meng Qi's hand should only be an avatar of that thing, the vast pressure that it exuded was no different from the main body. As a demon cultivator, Xikongxing couldn't help but feel fear just by looking at it. Meng Qi. Xikongxing pursed his lips again and said, This? I don't dare. Xingxing? Meng Qi was stunned. You don't dare? Apart from Xikongxing and Su Junmo, the rest were all cultivators from the 3,000 worlds. They all looked at the two of them in confusion, not quite understanding why Xikongxing was suddenly so scared. Meng Qi tilted his head slightly and understood a little. This was given to her by Yin Qingyan. He was the White Tiger Lord, and the white tiger was the royal family of the demon realm. It was normal for Su Junmo and Si Kongxing to be scared. I understand. She nodded and put the white jade token back into her storage bag. It's fine now. She smiled at Si Kongxing. I've already put it away, Xingxing. It wasn't fine at all. Si Kongxing didn't know what to say. She was scared because the fear of that thing was engraved in every demon cultivator's blood. They would subconsciously bow their heads and submit in front of it. Now that she knew that Meng Qi was the person who held the order, what was the use of putting it away? She was still scared. Sob Si Kongxing couldn't help but shrink her shoulders again. She previously knew that Meng Qi knew the Four Extremes formation. It must be related to a very powerful person in the White Tiger clan. But that didn't affect her friendship with her. Now that the other party actually took out this thing, should she serve her with respect? Si Kongxing turned to look at Su Junmo. The white-robed man standing beside her was also in a daze, looking at Meng Qi in disbelief. Si Kongxing closed her eyes and suddenly knelt down on one knee. She placed her right hand in front of her chest and clenched it into a fist. She lowered her head and called respectfully, "Your Honor." Meng Qi was stunned. "Xingxing, what are you doing?" She hurried forward and held Si Kongxing's arm to help her stand up. "Su Junmo, what's wrong with Xingxing?" As Meng Qi spoke, she turned to look at Su Junmo. "You and her." Before she finished speaking, the white-robed man also knelt down on one knee and clenched his fist in front of his chest like Si Kongxing, "Your Honor." Meng Qi was shocked. She quickly reacted. It must be the problem with the white jade token. Could it be that the master of the Falling Cloud Manor on the Great Desolate Island was some kind of "Your Honor" to Si Kongxing? The fire of Li Che and Xue Qingxuan's medicine refining had already been lit, and the pill cauldron was already overflowing with medicinal fragrance. Chu Tianfeng and the others, who were originally sitting cross-legged in meditation, were also stunned. No one knew why things suddenly developed in such a strange direction. Chu Tianfeng and Qin Xiuma looked at each other and saw a trace of worry in each other's eyes. Needless to say, Si Kongxing, Su Junmo was an envoy from the demon realm and represented the demon lord. Now that the relationship between the demon realm and the 3,000 worlds had eased, he was also quite respected here. Large sects like the Wind Alliance also treated him as an honored guest. If he came to the Burning Sky Palace, he would also be an honored guest. But now Su Junmo knelt in front of Meng Qi and respectfully called her "Your Honor." Chu Tianfeng sucked in a breath of cold air. Was Meng Qi related to some big shot in the demon realm? Qin Xiuma narrowed his eyes and covered the light in his eyes. He might know more than Chu Tianfeng. Back then Qin Xiuma narrowed his eyes slightly. Back then, Chu Tianfeng and he were tortured by that person to the point where they could neither die nor live. The young palace master of the Burning Sky Palace had not experienced any setbacks except in the field of love. Soon, he was crushed by the pain and despair day after day. Fanchu and Tanshu. Calm later, Meng Qi appeared and found a way to barely protect their hearts and veins, so that they could keep their last breath and not be tortured to death by that person. But at that time, the three of them were trapped at the bottom of the Great Devil Heaven remote lake in the demon realm. Although they did not die, they could not escape at all. Meng Qi's cultivation was the lowest at that time, and the demon qi at the bottom of the lake was too strong. She struggled to hold on and soon fainted. Qin Xiuma's Adam's apple bobbed up and down. In fact, he was not much better, and his consciousness was already half-conscious. In the haze, he saw someone stepping on the surface of the lake, as if a god had descended from the sky. Qin Xiuma was about to lose consciousness at that time, and could not see the other party's appearance clearly. He only remembered that the person seemed to be wearing a white robe, and had an unparalleled charm. The Great Devil Heaven's remote lake, which made people's expressions change, seemed to be nothing in front of the white-robed man. He walked with his hands behind his back as if he was taking a leisurely stroll, and walked to their side in a moment. Then, the man reached out and picked up the unconscious Meng Qi. Qin Xiuma still remembered that another person roared angrily in the distance at that time. "This is my demon realm. Why don't you stay in the demon realm, and come here to meddle in my business? I'll fight you to the death." Later, the water of the remote lake seemed to suddenly boil, and an extremely terrifying force pressed down. Qin Xiaoma did not feel well, and even the unconscious Meng Qi groaned. In the shadows he heard a gentle and pleasant man's voice, "Don't be afraid." The words "don't be afraid" were naturally not said to Qin Xiaoma. But the man did not care whether they lived or died. Instead he turned to Qin Xiaoma and the unconscious Chu Tianfeng and said lightly, "She spent a lot of effort to save your lives. If she wants you to live, then live." As soon as the white-robed man finished speaking, he waved his sleeve, and the remote lake, which was about to boil, suddenly calmed down. Qin Xiaoma had already reached the insightful Void Realm at that time. Insightful Void Realm cultivators were strong enough to fight in the three realms. He could feel that there were two mighty and terrifying forces fighting in the remote lake. He couldn't remember what happened after that. Under such pressure, Qin Xiaoma also fainted quickly. When he woke up, he had already returned to the three realms, and was lying on the edge of the Starfall Sea. Chu Tianfeng, who was also unconscious, was beside him. Meng Qi and the white-robed man's whereabouts were unknown. The Starfall Sea was just like now. Even during the day, the stars in the sky were so clear. The starlight faintly sprinkled on him and Chu Tianfeng. If they were not still injured, he would almost think that everything was just a dream. Thinking of this, Qin Xiaoma looked up at the sky of the Starfall Sea. It was said that this place had always been like this since it was formed tens of thousands of years ago. The stars were like bright lights in the eternal night, never changing. Among everyone, perhaps only Qin Xiaoma was not surprised. In his previous life, the one who imprisoned and tortured him and Chu Tianfeng was a real strong person in the demon realm. It was said that that person was the strongest genius in the demon realm for tens of thousands of years. The demon realm even hoped that they could sweep through the three realms under his leadership and become the master of the three realms. However, the white-robed man was able to save him and Chu Tianfeng from under his hands so easily. He must be a great figure in the demon realm. Qin Xiaoma quietly looked at Si Kongxing and Su Yufeng, who were kneeling in front of Meng Qi on one knee. To be able to make a sky demon noble bow down willingly, that person's identity. He gently exhaled and slowly shook his head at Chu Tianfeng, who was looking at him. "You two get up first." Meng Qi looked at Si Kongxing and Su Zhenmo, not knowing whether to laugh or cry. She reached out and pulled their arms again. "Xingxing, get up first." "Yes." Si Kongxing obediently answered and stood up obediently. "Now, can you tell me what's going on?" Meng Qi looked at Su Zhenmo, who also stood up and asked again. Si Kongxing did not dare to not answer when the person with the order spoke. She and Su Zhenmo looked at each other again and said, "Meng Qi." "No, Your Excellency. Just call me Meng Qi." Meng Qi was helpless. "If you call me that, I won't be able to speak." "Yes." Si Kongxing reached out and scratched her cheek. She did not dare to disobey the order of the person with the order. She was a little embarrassed. "That white jade token, it is, let me say it." Su Zhenmo looked around. They had fought side by side and gone through fire and water together. The people here were actually trustworthy. There was only one Ji Wujiang. He could not help but look at the black-robed man who was standing there lazily with his arms crossed in front of his chest. Ji Wujiang's lips curled up slightly and looked at him with a smile that was not a smile. "What are you looking at me for?" he sneered. "Do you want me to leave? Isn't it just a part of the Demon Lord token? What's so strange about it?" "Demon Lord token? A part of the Demon Lord token? What was that?" Su Zhenmo never thought that Ji Wujiang would be so bold and directly say the name of this thing. Sure enough, everyone sucked in a breath of cold air. Even Xue Qingxian, Su Zijuan, and the others had heard of the Demon Lord token. It represented the master of the demon realm. Wherever the Demon Lord token went, everyone in the demon realm would bow down. But why did Meng Qi have the Demon Lord token? Even if it was just a part of the Demon Lord token, it was enough to set off a storm in the three realms. Meng Qi. Ji Wujiang was not done yet. He raised his chin at Meng Qi and said, "Do you want to know why they are kneeling to you? It's because the thing you took out just now is a clone of the Demon Lord token." He raised the corners of his lips and smiled strangely. If you had said you had this thing earlier, would you have needed to go through so much trouble to enter this forest? Ji Wujiang took a step forward and looked straight at Meng Qi with a deep gaze. The Starfall Sea is independent of the three realms and does not respect the Demon Lord token, but he said word by word, I would never dare to kill the holder of the token. Ji Wujiang said and turned to look at Meng Qi. The person who gave it to you gave you a life-saving talisman. With it, you can do whatever you want in the demon realm, and no one will dare to touch you. Meng Qi. Her hands hung by her side and she fell into a daze. Demon. Lord. Token. She clearly knew every word of these 3 words. She had also heard this name many times, but she could not associate it with herself. Meng Qi's hands that hung by her side trembled slightly, and her throat felt as if there was a sour and astringent plum in it. She could not speak for a long time. So Qing Yan's Henjun he is she subconsciously looked at Su Junmo. The talkative fox was also from the demon realm, and he was the messenger sent by the demon realm to the 3 realms. He must know. Su Junmo met her gaze and quickly tilted his head to avoid it. Meng Qi. Ji Wujiang leisurely swayed to Meng Qi's side. Don't look at him, he won't dare to say it. He chuckled. If you have any questions, ask me. I will tell you everything I know. Meng Qi closed her eyes and took out the white jade token again. It clearly looked quite ordinary. She never would have thought that it was actually. She took a deep breath and asked, how should I use it? Meng Qi paused and asked again. Are you sure that you can enter the forest with it? Can you bring someone out with it? Ji Wujiang looked at Meng Qi with some surprise, and a faint smile quickly flashed across his eyes. I thought that you would ask something else first. Sister Xue and Pavilion Master Pei have been in the forest for a long time. I don't know how long they can last, Meng Qi said. That's true. Ji Wujiang nodded. This was Meng Qi. I can prove it to you, he said as he reached out to her. Give me a few Xian spirit stones. Meng Qi gave him a few Xian spirit stones as he said. Xikong Xing was angry. This guy was like this in the barrier of the tournament. It was too easy for him to ask Meng Qi for spirit stones. He was too thick-skinned. Ji Wujiang took the spirit stones and grabbed Meng Qi's wrist. Come with me. Let go of her. What are you doing? Let go. As soon as Ji Wujiang moved, Chu Tianfeng, Xue Qingxian, and the others jumped up and rushed towards the 2 of them. It's fine. Meng Qi nodded at the 3 of them to comfort them. Ji Wujiang smiled lazily at the 3 of them. With a wave of his hand, his narrow saber was already in his hand. Prepare some spirit stones. Meng Qi nodded and put another handful of spirit stones in her hand. She earned spirit stones very quickly, and spent them quickly. Every time she spent them, she would use at least 8th grade or 9th grade spirit stones. Recently, she had been using Xian spirit stones more and more. She had spent almost a third of the 2,000 Xian spirit stones on her. Ji Wujiang said again, take out the token. Okay. Meng Qi took out the token and held it tightly in her hand. The 2 of them had already walked to the edge of the forest. Ji Wujiang pulled Meng Qi behind him, held the narrow saber horizontally, and stepped in. Meng Qi followed closely behind him. Just as she entered the forest, she suddenly heard a woman's soft laughter. The laughter was full of joy, like people who had seen delicious food. Meng Qi only felt a huge suction force pouncing on her. The originally quiet spirit qi in her spirit sea suddenly surged, as if it was about to be sucked away by that terrifying suction force. Ah! She cried out softly, and the white jade token in her hand suddenly jumped slightly. The laughter stopped abruptly, and the huge suction force disappeared. Meng Qi was startled. Ji Wujiang had already stopped, and turned to look at her with a smile that was not a smile. How was it? Outside the forest, Chu Tianfeng and the others' hearts were about to jump out of their throats. They had already been waiting outside the forest, ready to rush in to save her at any time. At this moment, seeing the 2 of them stop, Chu Tianfeng was the first to lose his cool and asked loudly, Meng Qi, are you okay? Yes. Meng Qi looked back at everyone and nodded. I'm fine. Let's go out first. As she spoke, She struggled to pull her hand out of Ji Wujiang's grasp. Madam! Ji Wujiang quickly held her wrist even tighter. You're burning the bridge after crossing it. Sorry. Meng Qi also reacted. It seemed that the Demon Lord token in her hand had indeed worked. The two of them held hands and returned to the outside of the forest. Su Junmo only felt that the more he looked at them, the more irritating it was. He opened his mouth and wanted to say something, but in the end he did not say anything. So, after leaving the forest, Meng Qi immediately asked, "It has to be like this." She raised her hand. "Only the Demon Lord token can work?" "Yes." Ji Wujiang nodded. He raised the corners of his lips and smiled somewhat maliciously. "Of course, it's also possible that I'm lying to you. So, do you want to take the risk?" Meng Qi. Chu Tianfeng walked in front of the two of them. "Give me the Demon Lord token. I'll go." "What are you thinking about?" Ji Wujiang sneered and glanced at the black-robed young man. "If the Demon Lord didn't give it to you personally, you'd be holding it like holding a piece of scrap metal." Meng Qi's heart skipped a beat. Ji Wujiang's words were directed at her. So, Qing Yan's Henjun was really the Demon Lord, right? She had actually guessed Yun Qingyan's identity before. The clues revealed by Si Kongxing and the others were not completely untraceable. She just did not expect that the token given casually by the other party, the so-called master of Falling Cloud Manor on the Great Desolate Island, would actually be a clone of the Demon Lord token. "So only Meng Qi can go," Ji Wujiang said. "If she wants to bring someone out, it's best if she goes in herself. This way, she can bring out two people at a time." "No." Without waiting for Meng Qi to speak, Chu Tianfeng and the others said in unison, "That's impossible." "Then one more person will go in with her," Ji Wujiang said. "That means going back and forth twice. Think carefully. The Starfall Sea is independent of the three realms. After tens of thousands of years of changes, the bloodline power of this thing has long faded. Its reverence for the Demon Lord token is limited. If you go back and forth like this, despise its existence, and use the Demon Lord token to bully it, if you really piss it off, you might die in there. Aren't you King annoying?" Chu Tianfeng was about to go crazy with anger. He had never thought that someone could be so annoying. He could either not say that the Demon Lord token had such a use in the beginning, or shut up now and stop nagging at the side. "I'll go with Meng Qi," Qin Xiaoma said lightly. "You guys wait outside." "No." Su Junmo frowned. "I'll go." Aye. Si Kongxing said hurriedly. "I'll go with Meng Qi." Meng Qi took a deep breath. "I'll go by myself." "No." They objected in unison again. "Ji Wujiang is right," Meng Qi said. "No one knows if the Demon Lord token will always be useful, so the sooner the better. We can't take the risk twice." "Actually, Meng Qi is right." Ji Wujiang smiled lazily. "Besides, if the Demon Lord token is really useless in this place, one more person will die if one more person goes. What's the use of going?" Ji Wujiang. Meng Qi turned to look at Ji Wujiang. "According to the previous plan, you still draw the array on my body." She returned to her 5-spirit cauldron as she spoke. At this time, the small cauldron's medicinal fragrance was already quite rich, and a sweet fragrance was emitted from inside. The phoenix fruit had been hammered into a small, crystal-clear pearl, and was exceptionally cute. Who would have thought that this was the nirvana pill that could revive the dead and regrow flesh and bones? Meng Qi threw out a porcelain bottle, and put all the nirvana pills inside. Shui Chengxian and Li Che also put the pills they had refined and gave them to her. "Meng Qi." Ji Wujiang walked to her and asked, "Aren't you worried that I'm lying to you?" "Yes." Meng Qi nodded. "To be honest, I'm a little worried." She turned and looked into the depths of the forest, frowning slightly. "But this method is much better than before. Besides," she pursed her lips and didn't continue. Besides, when they entered the forest just now, Meng Qi felt that the young woman's laughter sounded a little familiar. And at that time, the bamboo slip from Lin Yan that was floating above her spiritual sea suddenly jumped several times. The bamboo slip was in Mengqi's spiritual sea and was nourished by her spiritual aura, so she could slowly sense some of its spiritual awareness. What the bamboo slip had revealed just now was clearly the joy of joy. It was as if it had met an old friend after a long separation. Then, Ji Wujiang shrugged. Do you want to know more about the Demon Lord token? This was the question he didn't finish just now. No. Mengqi said. Really? Ji Wujiang looked at her elegant little face. The green-robed girl's expression was calm and determined, and her eyes were as bright as ever. At least not now. Mengqi said. And I don't want to hear you say it. She suddenly raised the corners of her lips and smiled. Ji Wujiang, I won't give you a chance to mock him. Tiafi. Ji Wujiang snorted softly, knowing what Mengqi meant. At the same time, at a certain entrance to the fallen star sea of the demon realm, thousands of demon soldiers were guarding the place tightly. However, even with so many pairs of eyes, they couldn't see clearly how the man in white appeared. When they found him, he was already standing behind thousands of demon soldiers. His robe fluttered in the wind, and the man's voice was low and pleasant, as if there was a trace of helplessness. I was too lazy to fight for it, but since I've already given it to her, I can't take it back. He turned and smiled at the demon soldiers. Do you think that's right? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.